San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime years.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And a happy Friday to everybody out there in America's finest city. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. We are the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. All right, San Diego, let's talk about the news that has every Padres fan asking the same question. What does this mean for the future of this franchise? Because the San Diego Padres are on the verge of being sold to Jose Feliciano, and the reaction from fans has been exactly what you would expect. You have some fans with some excitement. You have some fans with some uncertainty. And let's be honest, probably a little bit of fear too, because we all just lived through the Peter Seidler era, and the Padres fans are asking, are we about to go from spending big to cutting payroll? And let me stop you right there. That is not what the track record says about Jose Feliciano. In fact, I'm going to go stronger on that. If you actually look at who Jose E. Feliciano is, if you actually look at how his firm operates, this is a guy who spends to win. And we're going to get into more of the details later on in the show about this. Drake Hills will join us in the noon hour, as he usually does, our soccer update. He's got a lot of information on Chelsea and to kind of tell us the inner workings of what Chelsea has been. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what Jose E. Feliciano has done as a co-owner of Chelsea. And a guy, as I mentioned before, a guy who spends to win, not to survive, not to tread water, to win. Let me explain this in a way that makes sense for everybody listening. So Feliciano is the co-founder of Clear Lake Capital. It's a firm that manages over $90 billion in assets. That's not just like rich owner money. That's like institutional, big boy, global sports investment money. And if you want to know how they operate, you don't have to guess. Just look at what they did with Chelsea FC. And I think a lot of people have been freaking out about like financial trouble with Chelsea FC and all this other stuff. I'm going to talk you off the ledge right now. They bought Chelsea in 2022 for about $3.1 billion. And since then, since 2022, they've spent over $1.3 billion on players. Let me repeat that. Since 2022, this ownership group of Chelsea, with Jose Feliciano, who is now the reported potential new owner of the San Diego Padres, has spent $1.3 billion on players, on talent, not cutting costs, not rebuilding on the cheap. They went all in. Now, some people hear that and go, yeah, but I heard they lost money. Yeah, they did. They lost a lot of money. Chelsea posted roughly $350 million in losses in a single year. And here's the key point Padres fans need to understand. That wasn't a mistake. That was a plan. Because this is how this group operates in sports. It's not, let's make a profit this year. Let's build a juggernaut, raise the value of the franchise, and dominate long term. How do you do that? You invest in players. You invest in development. You invest in infrastructure, and you invest in winning. Because I think as we have learned with the value of the Padres right now and what it's reportedly being sold for, what does winning drive? Winning drives attendance, winning drives TV revenue, winning drives sponsorships, and winning drives franchise valuation. You can get winning for the fans and for the team, and you can also get winning for the owners in the same way. Does any of that sound familiar? Well, that's exactly what this previous ownership group or current ownership group, I should say, just did. and what they believed. If you build it, they will come. It's exactly what the previous ownership did. They're still the current ownership. So if you're a Padres fan sitting there thinking, are we about to become a small payroll team again? I'd argue the opposite. This ownership group is built to sustain and potentially even increase aggressive spending. Now, let's connect it directly to the Padres. First off, this team just sold for around $3.5 to $4 billion. Sounds like $3.9 billion. And nobody spends that kind of money on a franchise to pinch pennies. That's not how this works. You don't buy a Ferrari to drive it 30 miles an hour. Second, look at the foundation already here. The San Diego Padres draw over 3 million fans. They generate over $500 million in revenue, and they have a superstar core. This isn't, let's rebuild this. This is a launching pad to what this organization can be with a new owner that wants to spend money and wants to be competitive. And here's the biggest difference between Major League Baseball and what they dealt with in soccer. Now, this might change a little bit because of the new CBA, but there is no hard spending cap like Premier League's financial rules. In baseball, if you want to spend, you spend. You just pay the tax. And guess what? Teams like the Dodgers have proven you can spend big, pay the tax, and still win championships. So Feliciano and Clear Lake were willing to spend over $1 billion on Chelsea's roster, eat massive short-term losses, and build a contender through aggressive investment. Why would they suddenly come to San Diego and say, you know what? I think we should cut payroll. They wouldn't. That's not in their DNA. That's not who they are. Now, I do want to be real with you because this isn't all sunshine. Obviously, it's a slightly different model than Peter Seidler. Peter Seidler was very more about personal, passion-driven, really about the city. This is a little bit different. This is a little bit on the money side, obviously. I think that scares some people. It's very calculated. It's structured, strategic. There's going to be a lot of complex financing. There's going to be a lot of debt structures. There's going to be a lot of long-term planning. But the thing that you need to know is that this structure is designed to enable spending, not restrict it. And I think this is the biggest takeaway for Padres fans. The Chelsea example isn't a warning sign, but it's a blueprint of what the Padres could potentially be. They went out, they bought young talent, they spent aggressively, they took losses, and now they're winning again. They're back in the Champions League contention, and they're building something sustainable. That's the model. And if they bring even a version of that to San Diego, you're talking about a team that continues to spend, continues to develop, which I think a lot of Padres fans have been clamoring about the last couple of times, and continues to contend. So here's my message to Padres fans this morning. Don't panic. Don't assume the worst. Don't think this is the end of aggressive Padres baseball, because everything that we know about Jose E. Feliciano, everything we've seen from Clear Lake Capital, everything we've done with Chelsea FC screams one thing. They're willing to spend to win. Now, does this guarantee a World Series? Of course not. But what it does mean is this. The Padres are not going backwards. If anything, they're stepping into an ownership group that has deeper pockets, more resources, and a global strategy. Peter Seidler changed the expectation in San Diego. He proved you can spend in a small market. He proved you can go for it. He proved this city will show up. Now the question is, can this new group take it even further? Because if they follow their track record, if they follow their model, if they follow their mindset, the checkbook isn't closing. In fact, it might just be getting started. That's where I'm at with this. That's my initial reaction after doing some research into Chelsea, after doing some research into what this ownership group has done with a previous group. So, I'm not going into this worried about a teardown. I'm not going into this thinking that San Diego got another previous terrible owner that they had in many years past. I'm going into this as this is a launching pad for what could potentially be a very important step in the Padres franchise history. Now, I will say this. In the current landscape of Major League Baseball, having a guy like Jose Feliciano as your owner that's willing to spend, that doesn't have a lot of penalties, it's kind of great to not have a salary cap. With the new CBA and everything going around with that, at least you have somebody now that has experience dealing with some of the harshest caps in professional sports. And Frank, I know you know a little bit more about this probably, but in the Premier League and how they run a lot of these leagues in European soccer, where the problem is for Chelsea that everybody's been tweeting about is like with finances, has been from they're spending so much money that's costing them a ton of money with overtures of taxes and fees and regulations like you would see if you went way over the cap in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's an overspending issue. It's not they're not spending much money. It's that they're spending too much. And for what the penalties that Chelsea are going to get most likely will be that they cannot participate in the summer transfer window. And if it's egregious enough, possibly the winter transfer window as well. So for those financial issues are not born out of them penny pinching. It's born out of them spending too much money. They're trying to sell players off right now. They're trying to invest in a younger core of players that they can extend to long-term contracts. So that's good news for what you want to hear on this side of it. Now, I know I've seen a lot of people already say, well, there's also a Dodger owner involved in Chelsea. Reports are they're not fans of each other.
We've heard
Feliciano
rumors about
owner.
that. We can't really confirm that.
No, that's what I said.
But yes, it's
that's what I said. Rumors are that they don't like each other all that much. So it's not going to be a rollover. It's not going to be to help the Dodgers. Nothing. Feliciano is going to want to go for it. So that is a very, very good sign as far as the future of this team goes. And the direction that Chelsea is going right now is also a very, very good sign that they're trying to get financially responsible and getting away from what the model that they used to be doing, going younger, locking in good players long-term instead of just trying to buy their way out of any problem.
They spent a ton of money early.
Yes.
It dug themselves in debt. They're climbing their way out of it, but they are looking for a long-term success of building the franchise value of winning. And the thing is as much as everybody has said, like, people see private equity, they freak out. The Seidler family came from private equity, right? Mm-hmm. Do we understand that before people started? It was fine with them. Has anything been bad on the Seidler family in terms of the overall concept of the team? Before they took over, the team was in last place almost every single year, and nobody went to games. Now the ballpark is filled to the brim almost every single night.
Surrounding area is filled to the brim every single night.
And they've made the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. So for a lot of the problems that people have had with this new ownership group that might have come in, a lot of them they're just kind of grasping at straws to make this a negative story. And you know what? I was part of that when I woke up this morning. I was like, okay, let's dive. What's going on with this? What's going on with that? But with more research into why Chelsea was in debt, it's because they're spending more money on a roster and they're eating up the fees. And the biggest thing, Frank, and you can explain this more than me, they owe a lot in agent fees. Now, agent fees in soccer is a little bit different, but every time you make a transaction via a loan or a trade, whatever it may be, I'm putting in layman's terms, you rack up agent fees, and they have a ton of those because they're doing what to their roster?
They're constantly transitioning. They're constantly moving around, yeah.
Right. Now, people freak out about they got rid of some players, and then they got rid of some aging players. They paid them to go away. Mm-hmm. They replaced them with young, talented players and gave them contract extensions. Everything that you would want out of an owner if you're a Padres fan is they're going to spend money on a roster. That's it. And what Chelsea has done is they have only spent money on a roster. This is all good news. That's what you want to hear. What you don't want to hear is an owner that came in. He's like, oh, by the way, when he took over Chelsea, he gutted the place. They're middling. They don't spend a lot of money. He's holding on to it. He's trying to flip. That's what you don't want to hear. But that's not what Chelsea is. Chelsea And the other thing with Chelsea is, yeah, they had a lot of success before these guys took over, right? But they are pumping a ton of money into the team, and that's all you can ask for. Now, whether or not they make poor decisions on who their roster is or what their sporting director does, whatever, but you have people that want to spend money. You have AJ Preller under contract, extended contract. He has shown that he could put together a team with funding. Now he's going to get funding. The only problem that I would find out of this is with the new CBA, how does this affect like having is this really a benefit with a salary cap? But at that point, you're bringing down your competition a little bit because the Dodgers are going to have to get under the cap just as much as the Padres will have to get under the cap. And you have an organization that is used to dealing with stricter salary caps.
Yeah.
So for me, like at the beginning, I think a lot of people were on the fence of, oh, I see all these Chelsea fans and they hate ownership. But Frank, why does Chelsea fans hate ownership? They're not winning as much as they used to be winning.
Yeah.
It's not because they're not spending money. And you know more than I do about the Premier League, the English Premier League, and everything that goes over on in the soccer world. Do the British people like any of their teams?
No. As a matter of fact, they don't. They're very much like us in that regard.
Right. They are getting punished for overspending. So I would rather have an owner that is getting punished for overspending than a guy that is in debt because nobody's showing up to games because he's not spending any money and he's like a John Sterling or whatever the guy's name was. I even forget. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, overall, I think this is good news for the city. And I think with some of the other elements that are going to be discussed in the next CBA, this is setting up for the Padres to be a premier face, a premier organization in Major League Baseball, and to build off of what they've already started. Because as I mentioned earlier in the open, you don't spend $3.9 billion and not invest in your product. You don't, like I said before, you don't buy a Ferrari to go 30 miles an hour. I like this move. What do you guys think? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Voice your opinion. There's a lot of negative opinions out there. There's a lot of positive opinions out there. The fact of the matter is you have to let it play out itself. There's nothing that's going to happen today that's going to dictate what the future is, right? I mean, you can't look into the future. If we could, we wouldn't be worried about this. Or maybe we would. I don't know. But you have to let this thing play out. And so far, I'm encouraged by the track record that Jose E. Feliciano has. We're going to go deeper into some of the inner workings of what Chelsea has done in recent times since Jose Feliciano and his group had taken over Chelsea. We'll talk about that when we come back, but we want to hear from you, Padres fans. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Just getting started. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Bristol just proved one thing. The fastest car doesn't always win. In the Cup Series, Ty Gibbs got his first career win, but he only led the final 25 laps. Kyle Larson led 284 laps. Ryan Blaney led 190 laps, and neither of them won. Why? Strategy. Gibbs stayed out, kept track position, and held on in overtime to win by just 0.05 of a second. Then in the Xfinity race, same exact story. Connor Zilic stayed out. Larson dominated, still finished second. Even in the Truck Series, a $350,000 bonus was lost in one moment because of track position. So here's the question. Should races be decided by strategy like this, or should the fastest car always win? Motorsports Weekly Update for you here on the Braden Surprenant Show. First-time winners and a strategy takeover in Bristol. If there was one theme at Bristol this weekend, it was simple. Track position was everything, and strategy decided everything. Across all three NASCAR series, it didn't matter who had the fastest car. It mattered who made the right call at the right time.
Yeah, in the NASCAR Cup Series, we have a new winner, Ty Gibbs, who's the grandson of Joe Gibbs, the car owner, captured his first career Cup Series victory at Bristol, and it came down to one decision, not giving up track position. Gibbs stayed out late while others pitted and took the lead and held off Ryan Blaney in an overtime finish by just 55 thousandths of a second.
the closest finish at Bristol in decades. What makes it more wild is that Gibbs only led the final 25 laps. Meanwhile, Kyle Larson led 284 of the 500, and Blaney led 190. But neither of them won. Instead, it was Gibbs capitalizing on timing, restarts, and execution. Also, an emotional win as Gibbs honored his late father, Coy, after the race, Coy Gibbs passed away. If I remember correctly, Ty Gibbs won the Xfinity Championship in 2024. Took the pictures that night from the racetrack, and his father, Coy, was gone the next morning. So that was from an emotional high to an emotional low for him in that race. But the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series on Saturday night, same exact story.
Yeah, same exact story. And it seems to be the very common theme here. As you take a look at the in the series, the exact same story played out. Connor Zilic took the win by staying out on older tires late, thanks to a bold call from veteran crew chief Rodney Childers. He held off once again Kyle Larson, who dominated by leading 230 laps, but finished second. For Zilic, it's a big bounce back moment after struggles at the Cup level, and once again, the fastest car didn't win. The smartest strategy did.
In the Craftsman Truck Series, same thing. Christopher Bell returned to victory lane for the first time since 2017. Bell took control late and held off Chandler Smith for the win. The biggest storyline, though, is last year's champion, Corey Heim, lost a shot at $350,000 after getting spun while battling for the race lead in a major swing moment. And this all comes down to the way Bristol was ruined after it got repaved, because now NASCAR caught lightning in a bottle with Kansas with progressive banking. So it's, say, 13 degrees of banking down on the bottom, but it goes up to about 20 up at the top. And the more banking you have, the better your car handles, the easier it is to turn. So guys tend to run towards the higher banking. They tried that with Bristol, and then it became everyone runs the top lane and that's it. And now they're putting a traction substance that they put down for drag racing. So like when you see drag racers doing their burnouts and running back, they're getting a sticky traction substance on the tires that whole way. They did that to try to improve the bottom line at Bristol, try to create the racing down there. Well, what they did was they took away the top line because the bottom line now was such an advantage, and it became a one-lane racetrack, and they ruined it again. So that's why you're seeing it's become such a difficult track to pass at now, because of, if you want to make a pass, you have to go high. You don't have the same, you have the ability up high because of the higher banking, but you don't have the grip that you have down low. So that's just the way Bristol has been for the last couple of years now, and it's made it so painful to watch.
Coming up next, NASCAR Cup Series now heads to Kansas Speedway, where speed matters more than track position. A complete shift from Bristol. Mm-hmm. So the question becomes, will strategy still matter, or will raw speed take back over? And the big debate after Bristol, should NASCAR races come down to strategy like this, or should the fastest car always win? Because this weekend proves something. You could dominate hundreds of laps and still lose. So what makes racing better? Unpredictable strategy or pure performance?
You need to have both. But you have to make the right call.
Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Again, if you're just tuning in, you missed some of the news this morning. It is being reported that the Padres are close to a sale, and they're close to selling the team to Jose E. Feliciano for $3.9 billion. It was first reported in the Wall Street Journal. It has now been picked up by multiple news outlets and, of course, multiple outlets here in San Diego. We talked about some of the nuts and bolts of what Jose Feliciano brings as an owner potentially. And with the research that we have done, you can point out that despite what is going on with Chelsea, they spend money. And since taking over Chelsea, when Jose Feliciano did in his group, because he's a co-owner of Chelsea FC in England, when he took over Chelsea, him and his group in 2022, since then, they've spent $1.3 billion on players. They spend the money. That's the best news you can hear if you're a Padres fan. They bought the team for $3.9 billion, potentially. That is being reported. And they spend money. And they have brought in young talent at Chelsea, and they've given them contract extensions. That's what you need to know. What are your thoughts? 833-288-973, 833-288-973. Let's go to the phones. Start out in Ramona, where Charles is standing by. Charles, what's going on?
Hey, thank you for taking my call. Yeah, I love the move. I've been doing some research all morning about the owners, and I like their how they are willing not only to spend money and surround young players with talent, but they're also willing to eat mistakes. And I've seen and heard at least that there's been times where investments aren't working out, and they'll eat money to make in a bad situation. I mean, I think this is just going to be good for the team, and we all want somebody that has an open checkbook so we can keep up with the Dodgers. So I'm all for it. That's basically all I have to say on the matter.
I'm all for it too, and I appreciate the phone call, Charles. Again, Charles brought up a good point, and we talked about it briefly, Frank, but when they got rid of players, Frank, when they first came in, they got rid of what type of player? Aging players?
On bad contracts.
On bad contracts. And what did they do?
They ate the money.
They wrote a check and said, we'll see ya. I mean, for anybody that likes to complain about the big contracts that the Padres have, I'm not one of those people, okay? Some of these contracts obviously are not going to age well. And for everybody that wants to get rid of Manny's contract and Xander's contract and Jake Cronenworth's contract and Tatis's contract, right? There's those people out there. I'm not one of those people. You just got a guy that can write a check to make that all go away. He's already done that before. I don't think they should, but something they've done. They replace him with younger talent, then they brought in and signed him to contract extensions. That's all you really need to know. They spend the money for the roster. 833-288-973, 833-288-973. Bobby and El Cajon, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
Thanks, guys. Good morning. This is the greatest news that a Padres fan could ever have. I'm tired of worrying about the Dodgers outbidding us for the players that we need. This is a great thing to happen to San Diego, the best city in the country, the best ballpark in the country. LFGSD, baby.
Bobby's excited. We appreciate the phone call from Bobby. Let's get out to Jose in San Diego. Jose, what's going on, brother?
Doing good. I'm calling just to check in. I think this is a great thing that's happening for the San Diego Padres. Chelsea, I know there's been a lot of spending with the Chelsea FC team, and it's given them results. In the last FIFA World Cup club tournament, they won it. That means that they were the best team in the entire world. So, that says a lot of good things about them spending money and building up a good team. I see good positive things happening for the Padres.
I appreciate the phone call, Jose. Thanks again for calling in. So a lot of people very excited about it. A lot of people excited about the potential moves. Obviously, it's not like, and here's the other thing too, Frank, we have to mention, it's not like every move that Chelsea made has been a great move, correct?
No, you're gonna make the wrong decision every now and again. I mean, Nicholas Jackson last year was a prime example. They brought him in as a young starter, as a young star striker, and it did not work out. He's not with the team this year.
When you talk about what you would want as an owner for your sports franchise, regardless if they make the right decisions on players or not, what do you want? That's kind of falls on the sporting director, does it not?
More or less.
Or the general manager here in the United States. You have somebody that people believe in AJ Preller. It's very hit and miss. There's a lot of people that hate AJ Preller. There's a lot of people that like AJ Preller. I tell you what, this organization currently has gone to the playoffs the last 4 years. AJ Preller's under contract on an extension. Who knows how many years? They didn't release the details of that. But he knows how to make moves. He's going to be under contract. And they're going to have an ownership group that spends the money to make said moves. All you care about is whether or not they pay. You don't really care about the inner workings of what Chelsea has done in terms of players that they have acquired and players they shipped off. They're not always going to make the best decisions. But the reality is you care about owners writing checks. And the track record says this potential new ownership group that has reportedly bought the Padres for $3.9 billion is a group that spends top dollar for the best roster they possibly can assemble. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Les in San Diego. Les, what's going on, man?
Hi, Ryan. Firstly, I love you. I love your show. You're the greatest. Thing about Chelsea. Chelsea have, of course, the ownership has spent a lot of money on trying to get the most expensive players in there, and hopefully they would bring, Chelsea a championship. But that's not a certainty. You can't just throw a whole lot of money against the wall and expect those players, the most expensive players, to deliver a championship. And that's the criticism that a lot of people have had of Chelsea, is that they're trying to just throw money at the wall and buy the championship. The key is to buy the right players, blend them in together, and then do it the right way. And as a fan of San Diego Padres, I'm glad that we have a new ownership that's willing to spend money, but the key is going to be to buy the right players. We can't just buy a championship. Don't you agree?
I do, to an extent, Les. I appreciate the phone call. If Les's biggest problem with Chelsea, Frank, is that they spend a ton of money and they just throw money at the wall, I'm kind of okay with that. I honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, for everybody that, like, the biggest problem, right, that people have with the new ownership group is they're gonna tear everything down and they're not gonna spend money. And Les calls in, he's like, the problem with Chelsea is they just want to buy a championship. Hey, man,
worse things have happened.
Does Jose Feliciano? I know he went to Princeton, but like, do you think he likes Horned Frogs? Do you think he likes, the color purple? Can he invest into the football team over there? Do you think he what? Even better. Like, somebody at San Diego State's got to give him a call, right?
I know.
Got to give him a call.
I know a team in orange and blue that could use his help right now.
Yeah. There's a team in red and black at place at Snapdragon Stadium. Could probably use a couple of extra players if you want. You just want to throw money. Or just throwing money for championships.
And Trav, no, that's not a doomer. That is a guy who is excited for the team, but also knows the reality that not everyone can do what the Dodgers are doing, and that you need to not just spend money, you need to spend the money in the right place.
If you just
that's
write
not
checks,
a doomer. That's a realist right there.
It's true. Like, you have to bring in the right recipe, right? I mean, there are some teams that have bought championships. They've also brought in the right recipe of players as well. Somebody in the YouTube chat goes, so Chelsea is the Dodgers of soccer.
No.
Drake Hills called them Dodgers FC. So
a lot of Premier League teams, though, the top flight teams in European soccer, whether it be in England, whether it be in Spain with Barcelona and Real Madrid, whether it be in Germany with Bayern Munich, they all do the same thing. They're all spending money. Some spend more than others, and some get the better results for it. But Chelsea, the reason why you're seeing Chelsea fans so crazy right now is because they're so used to sustained success. They're not used to being in 7th place in the Premier League, which is where they are right now. They're not used to that. So the fans are getting restless, wanting to get the right players. The system is in place. They're getting the system in place. They got the system in place now. They're just waiting on the results. The system's already in place here. Now they just need to add little bits and pieces to help push it along.
Let's get to one more phone call before we go to break. Let's go out to Rancho Penasquitos where Ray is standing by. Ray, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
I got you, man. What do you got for us today?
Hey, all I want to say is maybe that new owner can get in touch with Manny instead of a friendly with Chelsea against SCFC. What do you think?
That would be great. Love to see Chelsea come out here in a friendly.
That would be a lot of fun.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was maybe in the works in the future, right? Might as well bring his team out here to train, and obviously loves San Diego enough to want to potentially live here and everything. So I honestly thought about that this morning. I was like, oh, can't wait for the Chelsea FC friendly with San Diego FC. It's a great idea. Play that at Petco Park. It'd be wonderful.
Yeah, may as well, right?
Might as well. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We haven't even talked about the game last night. We're going to continue to talk about some of the inner details of this potential deal. That has been reported by the Wall Street Journal that Jose E. Feliciano is going to buy the Padres. We will talk more about the Chelsea conversation. Everybody wants to see what they've done in a previous ownership or a current ownership. And Chelsea FC is kind of a blueprint of how they might do things here. And that's why we keep bringing it up. They spent money. And I'll explain what a lot of people are worried about the debt. We'll explain what that debt really is when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Major League Baseball is making no sense right now. That might be the best thing for baseball. We've got small market teams like the Pirates and Marlins competing with the big spenders. The A's just went into New York and dominated. Most divisions are separated by just a couple of games. Meanwhile, new stars are taking over. Jordan Walker is breaking out. Mason Miller looks unhittable. And some big names like Pete Alonso are off to slow starts. But don't panic. That won't last. Here's the biggest takeaway. This might be the most parity we've seen in baseball in years. And the real question is, do we like this? Because while parity makes things exciting, baseball still feels different when there are dominant teams everyone is chasing. Right now, it's chaos, and honestly, it's must-watch baseball. We're a couple of weeks into the Major League Baseball season, and already things don't make sense in the best way possible. Small market teams are winning, superstars are slumping, rookies look like veterans, and some preseason favorites, well, they're already playing catch-up. So the big question this week, what's real and what's just April noise? Biggest trend right now, real parity in baseball, as Major League Baseball looks as balanced as we've seen in years.
Yeah, absolutely. Most divisions are separated by just a few games. Teams like the Pirates and Marlins are competing with the big spenders. Even the Los Oclamento A's went into New York, Queens, and they went to Bronx as well, dominated.
Did they dominate in the Bronx though, as much as they dominated in Queens?
I believe they may have went 5-1. They may have went 5-1. I'm not sure.
Are you sure about that?
I know they went 3-0 in Queens. This kind of parity kills the argument for a salary cap and makes the league more exciting week to week. Does this feel real, or is it just an outlier from such a small sample size?
I feel like the league's kind of does have parity right now. I mean, the Twins are, as we record this on Monday.
Yes.
The American League leader right now is the Minnesota Twins, who I thought was going to be the worst team in all of baseball. But they're not dominant. They're 9-7. Everybody's around 500 right now. And I know we routinely say most teams are going to play 500 ball the entire season. It's just whether or not you're going to go on a winning streak in those extra 42 games is the big difference between whether or not you make the playoffs or not. I feel like aside from the Dodgers, everybody seems pretty evenly matched, which I think is great for the sport.
And even the Dodgers are only a game ahead. They've got 11 wins at the moment. Again, recording this on Monday, they lead the league with 11 wins. The Padres and Braves have 10. Right. So it's not like, even though they are the measuring stick, they're not clear. They're right in the pack as well.
Well, and the other thing, too, the Padres were in last place in the National League a week before.
A week ago.
And they went on a little bit of a tear. So I think you're starting to see some parity in Major League Baseball, which is great for the players who are arguing in the next CBA. It's not great for the owners right now, maybe. But
sample size.
It's only been 16 games for a lot of these teams. Now, you're starting to see some breakouts and some stars emerging. Jordan Walker finally living up to the hype. 7 home runs, insane OPS numbers. And mechanical changes are starting to pay off. As for the pitching, Mason Miller, unhittable. We've seen him firsthand. 19 strikeouts in his 7 outings. 19 strikeouts out of 18 batters he's faced.
28
he's faced. But in terms of a lot of the outs that he has made, it's been mostly strikeouts. Look at a mix of elite closers from the past. Aren't flukes. These aren't flukes. These are career turning leaps. And obviously for the Padres, you got to love what Mason Miller's been doing.
Yeah, certainly. And a great look for Jordan Walker as well. He was supposed to be the next big thing in St. Louis, and now he's finally starting to get that way. Slow starters, should we panic? Boston Red Sox not looking good, especially on offense. Pete Alonso off to a slow start in Baltimore. Red Sox problem appears to be real. They do need another bat, as we said over the course of the offseason. And Alonso, I always say it with guys jumping over from the American League to the National League and vice versa. Their pitching is different in each league. You have to give guys switching leagues a little bit of leeway to get going, and that's exactly where Pete Alonso finds himself right now.
Yeah, it's always a brand new environment too. Like you're trying to perform for your new team. You're trying to show why they gave you the money that they gave you. You're trying to like almost prove yourself again. So I get where Pete Alonso's coming from in this particular deal. And we saw that with Manny here in San Diego. We saw it with, Fernando after his big contract. We've seen that with a lot of players after their, big contracts here in San Diego, a team that has handed out a lot of big contracts. So it's not surprising to me that Pete Alonso's in that situation to start the season. Surprise teams, Marlins, they look pretty legit so far. They're quietly building something real as of Monday of this week. Strong rotation led by Sandy Alcantara, young talent, producing, competitive even without key hitters. I don't really think it's too much of a fluke either. Me and you both thought Miami was going to compete a little bit more this year than they did last year. And even last year, they went on a little bit of a tear.
Yeah, at the end of last year, there was a warning shot that was fired by the Marlins, and they were, I believe, going into the weekend, they were leading the NL East. I don't really see them as much of a
Fan hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's better. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, setting his number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Obviously, the big news today, it is being reported by the Wall Street Journal first, and now a bunch of other outlets have, that Jose E. Feliciano is expected to buy the Padres at about $3.9 billion. We'll keep you updated if we get any other extra news, any more news for you to report on. We want to get your phone calls and reactions to this. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Brit Goli from The Athletic will join us in the next segment to discuss some of the details of this potential sale, what it means. But overall, my message is, and if you missed any of my overall takeaway, go back and listen to my open. Because we break down all the debt conversations that you saw about Chelsea on social media that came out. We talk about what they have been in terms of a club since Jose Feliciano came in as a co-owner of the team with, by the way, some owners of the Los Angeles Dodgers. The amount of money they've spent, where the team is at. I tell you right now, Padres fans, it's good news if you're looking for somebody that writes checks. Because this is a group that writes a lot of checks. They pay a lot of money to have problems go away. They pay a lot of money for roster construction. They pay a lot of money for young players on contract extensions. They spend the money that you have been clamoring for forever. Not to say that the Seidler family did not spend money, because they spent a ton of money too. But I'm telling you right now, it's all good news. Now, I'm not here to talk about whether or not the moves that Chelsea has made on the soccer pitch have been good or not. I don't really care. How Chelsea runs their operations for their roster does not matter to me. I don't care. I want to know, do they write checks or do they not? Now, if they come in and change the whole front office and everything like that and put their own people in there, maybe you could be a little bit concerned of like, all right, well, what are they doing? But as things stand right now, you got to give it a chance. You got to let it play out. You got to see what they can do. You know that Eric Grupner and AJ Preller are under contract on through the end of this year, through a couple of years in the future. I don't think they're going to change what has made this team good in the first place. All you need to know is that they spend money. That's the biggest thing, and that's the biggest takeaway for me. Now, if you look at the research, and if you start researching Jose Feliciano and Clear Lake Capital and the model that they have in owning a team, it strongly suggests it is wired to spend aggressively on talent to win, not to slash payroll like some cost-cutting private equity owners. And Padres fans' top worry is valid after the post-Peter Seidler A little bit of a payroll drop, but not too much. But Chelsea FC evidence points to opposite direction. Massive sustained investment in the roster, even at the cost of huge paper losses, because the end game is building a contender that drives long-term franchise value. I mean, I'll break it down as simply as I can to explain to you guys. But Clear Lake Capital, which is Feliciano and co-founder Bedad Egbali, and partners including Todd Bowley, bought Chelsea in 2022 for $3.16 billion. Since then, since 2022, when they bought Chelsea for $3.16 billion, they've spent $1.3 billion on players, mostly young talents on long-term contracts. This mirrors the LA Dodgers FC model that we were told about some people that watch the English Premier League. The people that think that the Chelsea really spends like the Los Angeles Dodgers. High player salaries, big agent fees. Chelsea led the Premier League in agent fees, by the way. That means do you want to explain for us real quickly what an agent fee is again? Frank?
Drake would probably be better to tell you about that stuff, and we'll have him on at noon.
An agent fee based, Drake gave me the spark notes of it. It's like the fees that you have to pay when you make transfers, when you make moves, when you make, throughout soccer, loans, all that stuff. There's a transfer fee on top of it. It's a way to make it, competitive balance. They're like competitive balance fees, if you will, in layman's terms. I'm sure some soccer person's screaming at me right now saying that's wrong. Whatever. We'll get the clarification from Drake. But they led the EPL in transfer fees, agent fees. But they have, again, high player salaries, big agent fees, transfer market aggression. Resulting losses are eye-watering. $262.4 million, or million pounds, sorry. Approximately $350 million pre-tax losses for the year ending in June of 2025, according to that article that you've seen floating around on social media about Chelsea's hosed. Oh my God. They have the biggest pre-tax losses for the year in the Premier League and in Premier League history. But the revenue is up now. It's up to $491 million. Costs, which is the accumulation of transfer fees and interest and agent fees, all exploded. All of the costs of doing business exploded for Chelsea. The complex debt structure that you saw in that article that has been circling about, Chelsea's hosed. Oh my God. It's engineered to enable the spending in reality. The simple version I can say, it's most of the heavy debt that they have sits at the parent holding company level and not the actual Chelsea FC operating books. So it uses PIK interest, which is payment in kind interest. It's interest that gets added to the principal of paid in cash right now that keeps the operating club's cash flow free of transfers and wages. Soccer has very strict profitability and sustainability rules and squad cost rules that limit losses and spending based on revenue. By parking the debt upstairs and using player trading profits, they stay compliant while still pouring money into the squad. Frank, this is essentially their loophole to continue to spend money on their team when they have all of these extra fees that they have to do. So essentially, they're taking all of the to put it in MLB terms, they went over the luxury tax and all those extra dollars that they have to pay for luxury tax fees that you see these teams have to pay. Instead of Chelsea's organization paying it on the books, they ship it up to their private equity group that that takes all the debt. And that's worth $90 billion. So that's their loophole to continue to operate Chelsea FC. So that's what you need. That's that whole article is about can they sustain spending all of this extra fee money, if you will. But there are warrants and equity kickers for that company per se. So it's high risk, high reward private equity math that they're doing. They're betting big on future value, stadium upgrades, multi-club network, global revenue growth to outrun the compounding debt by 2023. They're playing a private equity game. But it's not traditional billionaire writes checks from his pocket. This is a leverage private equity finance, but the clear intent, by the way, it's not like they're going to knock everything down. Their clear intent at Chelsea is growth through winning, not austerity. So the losses are a feature of the model, like early Amazon, early like the Dodgers under the Guggenheim Group. It's not a bug that forces payroll cuts. Chelsea has already sold players for big profits to recycle cash while still netting big spenders. So the big question, of course, is does Jose Feliciano want to win? Well, he was quoted publicly in March of 2026 in the New York Times, quote, "We take very seriously that Chelsea has been a top 6 team in the Premier League, and we intend not only to stay there, but to compete for trophies every year. We intend to win the Premier League soon. I think we put in place a much more sustainable system in terms of players and development that I think is yielding results right now." That's a guy that wants to win. Now, the on-field evidence really backs his comments because in the early Clear Lake era, it was chaotic, overspending, poor results. By 2024-2025, Chelsea finished 4th, which was the best that they had done since 2021, and they qualified for the Champions League. They also won the Europa Conference League, and they also won the Club World Cup. Revenue is rising with success. What does it mean to win the Club World Cup, Frank? Is that pretty good?
It takes a lot. It takes the club winners from each league, or I believe like one of the top clubs from each league, and puts them all together in like a World Cup. And Chelsea, won that.
Okay. That seems pretty impressive.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool. So they're shifting to a more sustainable young core trading model, but still spending. Net spend remains elite. Summer of 2025 sales were record high to fund new buys. How about that? And record high sales for Chelsea. Clear Lake views sports as a growth asset class. They're pushing deeper into it. Multi-club model with Strasbourg stadium plans. Feliciano's personal net worth is about $3.9 billion, roughly what they paid for the Padres. But Clear Lake manages $90 billion plus in assets. This isn't a guy who needs to flip the team for a quick buck. The play is to make the franchise worth more by contending. Higher attendance, TV deals, sponsorships, player development upside. So, obviously with different league rules, even more flexibility. As of right now, with the current CBA, MLB has a luxury tax, not soccer's hard PSR caps. You can spend big. Dodgers are doing it. They're paying a huge tax and winning World Series. Padres market is small, but attendance was already elite, approximately 3.44 million in 2025, and revenue is north of $500 million. Winning spikes that further. Peter Seidler proved that aggressive spending works here in San Diego. Top 3 payrolls, multiple playoffs, NLCS run. The drop since his passing, obviously, temporary ownership limbo. What are we going to do with the team? All that other stuff. Feliciano paid a record $3.9 billion, reportedly, or close to it. Bids hit $4 billion range in the final round, it seems like. No one drops that on a small market club expecting to run it cheap. Private equity firms like Clear Lake buy for upside, roster investment, contention, valuation jump. No public will cut payroll signals here. Instead, Clear Lake explicitly ties the Padres' interest to their broader sports push. Feliciano has been in the final bidding groups from the start. So they're trying to build the team. The Chelsea spending and huge losses story isn't evidence that Feliciano will pinch pennies on the Padres. It's evidence that he and Clear Lake Capital are comfortable using sophisticated financing to fund bigger roster bets while navigating regulations. They took the losses to build a winner, and it's starting to show results for Chelsea FC. Padres fans should be excited and not scared. This ownership group's track record screams spend to contend. I said it in the open. I'm going to continue to say it. But they're spending to contend just like Peter Seidler did. They just have deeper pockets and a private equity scale structuring behind it. Now, the deal's not 100% closed yet. It's going to happen over the next couple of months, but everything points to continuity or even an uptick in aggression once the new group stabilizes things. If anything, the worry should be the long-term debt math, same as Chelsea's 2033 balloon, but short-term payrolls, but not short-term payroll stinginess. Feliciano wants trophies, not just balance sheet wins. So I look at this entire sale. We spent the entire first hour on it. I'm telling you right now, this is an ideal situation for the Padres with somebody that spends a lot of money and is willing to do that for a championship and do it for the roster. And everything that we've talked about, Frank, I haven't seen one thing that goes, wow, this is a massive red flag.
No, not at all. And that's been absolutely huge for the Padres and the fan base, for sure.
When we come back, Brit Goli of The Athletic will talk about the details of her report with Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal on the potential sale to Jose Feliciano. We'll get some of the details from her as we continue our conversation. We do want to get to your phone calls too. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Big news for Padres fans continuing the 11 o'clock hour. 11 o'clock on a Friday. Big news for Padres fans today. It's been really the main focal point of our show. If you're just tuning in, there are some reports that the Padres will have a new owner. Jose E. Feliciano is expected to buy the team for a whopping $3.9 billion. And joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline, it's not Big Bank Banking, it's better. MLB writer for The Athletic and Brit Goli joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. One of the people of The Athletic that was able to be part of this story. Obviously, the Wall Street Journal had the news earlier this morning. But Brit, thanks again for some of the time today as we talk about a pretty important day in Padres franchise history.
Yeah, big news. First kind of got wind of it last night, and we've spent the last, with my colleagues Dennis Lynn and Ken Rosenthal, spent like most of last night and this morning trying to firm it up, because that's something, if you go with guys, you got to make sure you're right, and fortunately we were able to do that and get the news out pretty quickly, which was great.
In terms of how this process went and all the information that you guys have accumulated over the last couple of months, because you guys have been reporting on this for some time now, what was this deal coming down to? What did the bids get to? Was it the highest bidder? I mean, how was Jose E. Feliciano able to, win the bid as it's being reported?
Yeah, it's definitely money. There were there were parties, interested bidders. Of the four groups, I was told all four made bids. There were other groups that went in that 3-5 range, but I think Feliciano was pretty far ahead of the second bid, and then those are still details that we're working to confirm and come out. But I think that shows a lot. If you're a Padres fan, you knew this team was going to set the record. The Mets, were in the low twos. You knew $3 billion was possible, but to have it come close to $4 billion, and again, not finalized yet, they're still hammering out the details. I think that speaks volumes, because this is a scenario where it's not fans, it's not us. These people got to walk in, they got to look at all the books, they got to see everything going on, and they said, yep, we're going to spend almost $4 billion on this team. That has to make you feel good about where the San Diego Padres are at now and where they're headed in the future, because private equity people are smart. They buy undervalued assets, and to think at $3.9 billion, they think that the Padres were worth that. Again, speaks volumes to the organization, what Peter Seidler did, what he created in San Diego, and essentially, reviving a lot of the city's love for that sport, and what the organization has been able to do and consistently compete and have the firepower, and of course the fans and the attendance. I don't think it gets done and gets anywhere near this number without all of those things.
We're talking with Brit Goli, who is a writer for The Athletic covering Major League Baseball, who was in on this report with Dennis Lynn and Ken Rosenthal. Obviously, Wall Street Journal had it last night as well. But, and when we talk about this situation, and I think a lot of people go like, well, if the Padres are going for 3.9, what does that make everybody else? But it seems like from a lot of insiders and some of the research that you have done, that a lot of this, to kind of go back to your last point, has been because of what the Padres have done, and don't expect a lot of the other teams that might be coming up for sale to surpass the Padres in terms of their valuation. What does that say? Kind of to just have you go a little bit more on what you just said about what the Padres have built here and what Padres fans have helped, turn their team into with all the attendance and everything.
Yeah, well, I think two things can be true. One, this can be a little bit of an anomaly, and two, baseball teams are undervalued and it's in a very prosperous spot, and I think you're going to see a lot of rhetoric about how much of an anomaly this was. And I'm not so certain I believe a lot of it. I think it behooves the league certainly to have that as the messaging, and have, because they want to have a salary cap, which also would go a long way in franchise valuations. But I think it's a lot of things. And talking to people over the last day or two as we chase this story, it's why Miami is worth worth more than a team in Cleveland. Part of it is San Diego and the city. And if you're rich, wanting to own a team in a beautiful city like San Diego absolutely factors in the proximity to LA, all that California has to offer. Two is what Peter Seidler built, and investing in the payroll and the players and all of that as well. And the fact that the fans show up. I think also, if you are looking at this, you're looking at, okay, well, the Padres, rank in the bottom of the league in terms of money from media rights. So if you know that that's going to be something that's going to be hopefully, fixed in this next CBA, then they have nowhere to go but up in terms of adding more money, right? So there's a lot to like, I think, and there's a lot that made the Padres an attractive team. But I also think that, people out there saying like, oh, well, Padres sold for this, but all these other teams are still like 1 to 2 billion. That's not necessarily true. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be true as we get through this next CBA, even if there's not a salary cap. I think private equity, again, these people are not idiots. They buy undervalued assets. Content is king. And why would you own a Phoenix Suns when you can own a team that plays every day for 6 months, right? Baseball has so much content. It's such a, I think, undervalued asset. So I do think this is going to rise the rest of the league. And if you don't believe me, look at the Braves stock today. It's publicly traded, guys. It's up 4%.
Yeah, they went through the roof. It seems like at this point, I saw a lot of people posting that well, if that's what that's worth, we've got to start pumping some more money into the Atlanta Braves stock that they have. But as you mentioned, and we're gonna, we done a little bit of research, obviously, on Jose Feliciano, but not as much probably as you guys have dived into with all of the candidates that put a final bid in. What can you tell Padres fans about what you have researched and what you have found out, you, Dennis, and Ken, about Jose Feliciano, and why he kind of and of course, what he potentially brings to be a Padres owner?
Yeah, so I was kind of asking some people in the private equity world, and is this guy going to actually spend money? Is he going to take it apart? I think that's always the fear with private equity groups, right? They're going to sell it off for parts. They're going to be obsessed with the margins, and the people I talk to don't believe that. They feel like this is a little bit of a labor of love for him. This is something that he was interested in. I know Jared said this as well, but he feels like they're going to move a lot of their charity stuff to San Diego. This is definitely something where he is going to be involved and wants the team to do well, which I think is all you can really ask in terms of a payroll. And I think when you look at, it's not like Clear Lake. It's definitely maybe a parallel to Guggenheim with the Dodgers and how they spend like crazy, right? So it's not just that private equity guys don't spend. I think you have to have a guy who's passionate about things. And if anything, that sale price and how above and beyond they went and get in the team tells you that he's passionate. He didn't need to buy this team, right? He doesn't need any more money. So I think if you're a Padres fan, you have to like, one, the bidding war that went for this team. It has to tell you just how important of an asset this is and how this franchise is headed in the right direction. But two, I think when you look at a guy like Feliciano, who co-owns the Chelsea Football Club, he's been in sports a little bit. He wants to get into baseball. I mentioned the amount of content in baseball versus some of these other sports. I think it's going to end up being a pretty good overall deal for the Padres fans.
We're talking with Brit Goli, who is a writer for The Athletic covering Major League Baseball, joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. Obviously, there's some ties with Chelsea. I mean, they have a couple of part of the co-ownership with not only Jose Feliciano is some people that do own the Dodgers. How much of is how much does that play a factor maybe into this, or any fun storylines with Feliciano and Goli now co-owning the Chelsea together and now division rivals in Major League Baseball?
No, I mean, I got nothing. It's not even done yet, so you're not going to get anyone to tell any stories or talk about this, right? It's still in the being finalized stages, so a little early. We might have something down the road for you on that.
What is the process now like? Because obviously they've picked the player, as you mentioned. They picked the winner of the bidding, and now you have to go through a lot of different processes. There's probably a lot of paperwork. Major League Baseball, of course, has to vet new owner. I mean, what's the process like from your understanding? How long does this usually take? I mean, because I know a lot of Padres fans, they hear this news and the good news, and they go like, great, let's go sign Lucas Giolito. We got an empty checkbook ready to go. That's obviously not the case. What's the process like now after they've picked a potential new owner?
Well, first the owners have to, I think 75% of them have to approve it, and that you'll get a kind of a formal announcement. I would imagine at some point, either over the weekend or early next week. And then after that, like, I don't know, you're going to have to kind of see how things go from that. But that's like the professional timeline of how this is all going to get done here. They're going to wrap things up and they'll kind of move from there. I have in terms of payroll or how all that stuff works, I have no idea what they're going to end up doing or what this is going to mean. I think a lot of, if you look at teams that switch hands, a lot of that first season is kind of wait and seeing. And when you look at the fact that we're heading to a likely lockout and a new CBA, I would probably, if I was a Padres fan, not get too excited about him coming in and spending another $200 million on player payroll. We're already in the season, right? Maybe this affects a little bit of what AJ Preller can do at the deadline. Maybe it doesn't. But a lot of this is going to be dictated in the years to come, next year, post CBA for sure.
We've seen a lot of reports about this potentially impacting the CBA. I think players can point to this about, franchise valuations going up, ownerships want a salary cap. We've heard a lot of reports about them centralizing the TV contracts and everything that might be involved with that. But from your perspective, how much does this sale impact the CBA? I'm sure there's going to be some discussion, and then using the Padres as an example. And, what's the latest information you could tell us about where both sides are at in terms of what they want out of the next CBA?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty clear the owners want a salary cap. I think that, the valuation of franchises, they feel like it's important. And, it's true. If you look at FS1 and what happened when they capped it, the valuations went through the roof. So that's something that's not really a secret. The players don't want that, and they're going to fight for it. And, we may lose games over it. I hope not. But, that's kind of been the rhetoric around it. And I don't know if it's going to change much. I do think that this deal, like I said, selling for 60% more than Steve Cohen paid for the Mets in 2020, is going to be a definitely something the union is going to point to and say, see, the game is profitable. The game is doing great. And so I think, I talked to a lot of people around the league today, and people feel like, one, these franchises, some of them are so undervalued, it's insane. If they could figure out the media rights, then it'll really go through the roof. You look at the NBA and what they make, I think it's like twice as much as what baseball makes in media rights. So even getting the media rights would go a long way in helping, I think, with a lot of this. But two, I think a lot of this depends on ownership. And we saw the Twins, they weren't able to sell. We saw the Angels have problems in DC. And I think, again, you can't say it enough, what Peter Seidler created, what he did here. I mean, it wasn't so long ago. I think it was a couple of years ago that the franchise was internally valued at $1.8 billion. Okay. And for them to sell at 3.9, again, just shows you what the Padres have built. And I think it's admirable. I think MLB will look to it as an anomaly, but I think the union will look around and say, wait a second, if there's an owner who spends and a city who comes out because they're winning, why can't these franchises be worth $3 billion? Why can't they be worth $4 billion? I mean, I can't imagine what this does to the sale price. And we talked about the Braves stock going up, but what about the Yankees, right? What about the Dodgers? I think the Dodgers are worth more than the Lakers right now. And remember when the Dodgers were bankrupt? It wasn't that long ago, right? So is it the organization or is it the way they're run? And I feel like it's the way that they're run.
And I think it's a good model for a lot of organizations for Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is just showing every organization what the Padres have been able to do in a unique market surrounded by a desert, an ocean, a major city, and an international border. They're able to do this in Southern California in a little bit of a small region. There should be no excuse for anybody else that wants to spend money. Brit, we appreciate the time. Thanks again for joining us. Though it's a busy day for you today with this big news, and look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to my mom, who's a huge, huge listener. She's been listening all morning.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep, she lives in Claremont. She's like, Jared Diamond is on right now. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, hopefully you're still listening when your daughter goes on.
That's awesome. Well, appreciate it, Brittany. Thanks again.
All right, guys, take care.
Shout out to Brittany's mom out there who lives in Claremont. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Great. We love the listenership. Anyway, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. A lot of the same positive vibes that we were talking about, right? And I think, Brittany pointed out a lot of important pieces of information. This is why the Angels were unable to sell. This is why the Twins were finding a tough time to sell, and why DC has been you kind of need the team to have value. And what Peter Seidler and the Seidler family did to this organization was give it value. And that's great. I think that's great news. They should be the prime example of what baseball teams should strive for that are in small markets. Let's get out to a couple of phone calls. Get out to Juan in Oceanside. Juan, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Braden? First of all, I want to say, as an Arsenal fan, so by extension, a Chelsea hater, this is a really good day for the Padres, because that means that we're actually going to be able to spend some money, however much that is, whether it's within range of what we are now, or even a little bit more. I think that it's a great sign for the future of this franchise. Also, I want to criticize Frank a little bit, because he's acting like Chelsea's on hard times, like as if they didn't just win the Club World Cup, as if they don't have one game away from getting to the FA Cup final. It's like, oh, boo-hoo. Like, you guys really are the Dodgers of the Premier League. Anyways, hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Juan. Did we get Big Ten PR Frank talking about Chelsea?
No, you did not.
Aren't you a Chelsea fan?
Yes.
Yeah. Guys trying to we're not the Dodgers.
No, I would say very much so. More Man City has been the Dodgers over the last decade or so.
I do watch him. He does watch a little bit more Inter in here than he watches Chelsea. But
I do. Speaking of which, I think they might be coming on in the next 15 minutes.
Oh, joy. Let's get to Brandon and Carlsbad. I'm sure Brandon's fired up today. Brandon, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Frank? What's up, Braden? Real quick, let's just reflect back onto the first two series of the season, and let's look at where we're at today across a myriad of topics. You know, Friar Faithful, can you see it now? Can you smell it? We're doing good. 8-game win streak. We got an owner. Well, possibility of an ownership that'll actually spend some money. It's like we jumped to so many conclusions. I think the stars are finally lining up for us, Friar Faithful. I truly believe that within my heart. Ownership aside, it's still a long season. There's still a lot of really great ball clubs out there winning. But I just wanted to say, the doom and gloom when the season kicked off, never bought into it, not once. And you know what? God bless Peter Seidler. And the analyst that you just had on said it best. Look what he put up on the tee for future ownerships to come in here and see and realize not only the value in the ball club and the stadium, but how beautiful our community is, our city is, and that they want to build. Hey, nothing makes more. You want to make more money? You have a winning franchise. So, you know what, you guys, let's roll. I'm just really stoked. I'm fired up about that. You know, I just think we're all happy. Yes, there's ups and downs of everything as far as like it's, you know, it's a big financial firm. It's not necessarily just one person per se, but I think that we had a good team looking over all the four choices when they finally settled on this one, at least enough to make it public. So let's go, you guys. God bless. Have a great weekend. Go Pods.
I appreciate the phone call, Brandon. We're going to continue to get your phone calls throughout the day. We really appreciate you guys weighing in. It seems like it's a exciting time right now to be a Padres fan. And there's a couple other things that are coming out in the CBA that I think are going to make it even better. I think a lot of things are turning up brown and gold right now. I'll explain when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, Setting Zimmerman Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Just when it looked like San Diego baseball turned the corner, reality hit again. After sweeping Santa Clara, the Toreros came into this week with momentum, but they couldn't really sustain it. They got blown out by Irvine. They bounced back with a big win over San Francisco on Friday, and then they dropped the series with two tough losses over the weekend. At this point, the issue is clear, and it's like a lot of the schools here in town. It's inconsistency. This team can score runs, and they can pitch, and they're starting games fast, but they're not putting together complete weekends. And in conference play, that's the difference between contending and sitting right in the middle. So now the big question is, can they find consistency before it's too late, or is this just who they are in 2026? After sweeping Santa Clara last week, it looked like San Diego baseball had finally turned the corner. This week, a reminder that they're not quite there yet. The Toreros opened with the midweek test against UC Irvine, got hit hard in a 13-5 loss. USD scored first again, something they've done consistently. Andrew Gana stayed hot, continuing his player of the week form, but a 9-run fourth inning fueled by walks completely flipped the game. And Frank, how many times we have to talk about it in baseball? You can't stop a walk. That's going to lead to big innings. 9 runs, hard to overcome on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, certainly, especially on a Tuesday night where we see the strange things always seem to happen midweek in college baseball. So yeah, walks are always, always, always killed you. Nice to see Andrew Ghana staying hot though, continuing his player of the week form, but that was not great out of UC against UC Irvine.
And that's been the recurring issue. It's been self-inflicted damage for USD. Then they came the big conference series against San Francisco. Has been sitting at first place in the WCC, and they got a statement win on Friday. They went 9-2. Had 5 players have multi-hit games. 4 Toreros had 3 hits each. Pitching combo of DeShriver and Fries locked things down. That's the version of USD we saw during the Santa Clara sweep. That's the version of USD we expected at the beginning part of the season. But again, it was in the weekend where things started to slip away.
Yeah, Saturday, back and forth game, tied late, and then San Diego gives up runs in the 8th and loses 7-5. And then on Sunday, score first again. Offense left the building at that point, a 6-1 loss. So instead of building momentum, San Diego now settles for a series loss and sits at 13-20 overall, 6-6 in the West Coast Conference. And that first place team momentum that they had after the Santa Clara series, not so much anymore.
I mean, the team has improved. You've seen them improve over the last week or so, but they're still not consistent enough to really take control of the WCC. So now they're in the middle and they're fighting to get themselves in the WCC tournament right now. I mean, at the beginning of the season, you were thinking, how can this team advance in the NCAA tournament? Could they be one of the first teams in San Diego, not just USD, but San Diego State and UCSD to advance to a super regional? They got picked to win the conference outright at the beginning of the year. And now they're trying to fight their way just to make it to Scottsdale for the West Coast Conference tournament. So they've now shown that they can explode offensively. They've shown that they can get dominant pitching performances. They've shown they can start games fast, but they're still struggling to sustain that level across the entire weekend. And they still are struggling to lock games down in the late innings. I mean, they are giving up too many big rallies in late innings to try to win baseball games.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate to see. And unfortunately, softball kind of ran into the same issue as they faced Santa Clara over the weekend, and it did not go well for them at all.
No, game one, a 9-1 loss where they got run ruled. They jumped out to a 5-0 lead at game 2. They lost 8-5, giving up 8 unanswered runs. And then at game 3, they scored early again, but lost 5-3. So across all 3 games, the pattern is clear. Fast starts, but no finish out of the Toreros on both the baseball and softball side. Now, USD softball drops to 16-23 overall. They're 3-6 in West Coast Conference play. I mean, as of right now, the question is Inconsistency now the new identity as Toreros baseball team? They're playing like it. And the thing that's hard to say, we've seen both extremes. We've seen them sweep a conference opponent. We've then seen them lose a series the very next weekend. We've seen them dominate one game and then disappear the next. At some point, it stops being ups and downs and it starts becoming who you are.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it does look that way. And it's the difference between a top contender and a middle of the pack team. And it's consistency. Right now, USD is stuck in between. The talent says they should be near the top. The results say they're still trying to figure it out. And unfortunately, the clock is ticking as we get down towards the end of the season, as they're going to be playing Cal State Fullerton here soon.
It's going to be a tough finish. We'll see what San Diego's got in store. They got to try to battle their way through to try to make the WCC tournament. They got a lot of opportunity left, but they're running out of series to do it. 11:24 on a Friday. A great Friday it is. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. I want to mention that we're giving you and a guest a chance to go away with Weezer on their Weezer The Gathering Tour. Get hooked up with flights at 2-night hotel stay, a pair of tickets to see Weezer, plus a meet and greet with the band and a signed set list. Thanks to Live Nation and Crush Music. And all you have to do is enter and listen to us on the Odyssey app. Download the free app, create your account, favorite our station, and listen for an hour to get your daily entry. And come back each day for another chance to win. This is a national contest. We're going to get to the management report in a little bit. AJ Preller was on with Ben and Woods. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. It's brought to you by SDCCU. We're going to get to that in the noon hour. Drake Hills will join us in the noon hour as well to tell us a little bit more about how Chelsea operates and talk a little, not too much San Diego FC, but like what this news means for the Padres with Jose Feliciano buying, potentially buying the team. It's in the infancy stages of this. There's a lot of paperwork that needs to happen. There's a lot of things that need to happen in order for the sale to officially be completed. It's not a completed sale yet, but they have picked the bidder. And it sounds like it's going to be Jose Feliciano for upwards of $3.9 billion. Earlier today, we're going to get to this in the next segment, but earlier today, it was Jared Diamond from the Wall Street Journal that broke the news about this deal going down. And he was on with Ben and Woods earlier this morning. We're going to hear what he had to say in just a little bit. But first, I want to go back to the phone calls. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Derek in La Mesa. Derek, what's going on, man?
Hey, Braden, how you doing?
Doing well.
As a Chelsea fan and a Padres fan, lifelong, I just want to tell everyone we got to be cautiously optimistic. The club has some of the best facilities in the world. In the battle between Bailey and Feliciano, Chelsea fans preferred Feliciano. I think that we've got something good here. We need hardware, we need trophies, and Chelsea have done it. And we just gotta trust the process and move forward. Thanks.
Well, I appreciate the phone call, Derek in La Mesa, a Chelsea fan and a Padres fan. That's interesting what he said. Is that true? Do you believe that as a Chelsea fan?
I didn't hear what. I'm trying to cut stuff up.
He said in the Bailey. What's his name? Bailey. Boli.
Sure.
Boli.
Okay.
The Dodgers part owner.
Yeah.
That's the Chelsea guy. He said in the Feliciano Bailey. He didn't say but he said with them, whatever.
With words.
Yeah. He said that they take Feliciano's side. Chelsea fans do.
Well, there you go.
So I guess that's the case. Yes. So we're going to get to it in the next segment, though, as somebody in the YouTube chat said. And some good news about Feliciano in terms of what Jared Diamond was reporting. And Jared said that Feliciano sounds like he's moving a lot of his stuff to San Diego, which is great for the city in a sense, too. He's going to move his charities here. He's going to move a lot of the other financial stuff here. We will play that audio for you when we come back in just a second. But as I went to break, I mentioned, I think a lot of things that are starting to formulate are starting to appear for Major League Baseball incredibly help the Padres out. I think there's no better team. There's no better team to be right now than the Padres and where things are trending. Now, the Padres getting a owner that likes to spend money on his roster, fantastic. That's check mark number one. Now, let's talk about the CBA for a second. As Brit Goli said on our show, and it's obvious, right? The owners want a salary cap because and she mentioned what Formula One did. When Formula One put in some type of cap, all of a sudden the values for all the teams went through the roof. So the ownership wants that. The ownership groups want that, I should say. The owners want a salary cap, salary floor, whatever it may be, because they want to increase the values. They also want to do something else. But let's talk about this cap for a second. That would significantly limit, obviously, the Los Angeles Dodgers from spending money. It would also limit the Padres from spending money, too. I mean, they have to fit under the cap. At least, Feliciano's got some experience in the English Premier League with harsh caps to deal with. But at the very least, your biggest competition cannot just freely spend. So that helps you. The other thing that's also very important about why everything seems to be turning up brown and gold is the potential for Major League Baseball and what they're trying to do in this next CBA, pooling the TV contracts, which means everybody would sign a massive TV deal with all these entities, right? Whether it be NBC or ESPN, Fox, whatever it may be. Maybe it's some of the streaming platforms as well. And then everybody would be getting kind of the same check when it comes to TV revenue, which would equal hundreds of millions of dollars is what is being reported by a lot of insiders that have had this conversation. And instead of whatever the Padres are getting right now, which is not as lucrative as that, they'd be getting hundreds of millions of dollars of influx. The last thing I would say, and I think it was interesting what Brit Goli brought up about with these groups that have put in bids and private equity. Everybody seems, there's a lot of like bad things about private equity, right? But there's some good things. Now, here's where it leads to. Like private equity groups go and find, as Brit Goli said, undervalued things that they can make very valuable. Everybody had looked into the books before they put their bids in, and they decided to still spend $3.9 billion on the Padres, knowing with all of these factors what this organization can be. They still think at $3.9 billion, the organization is undervalued. So, to me, that shows that everything that's looking up for the Padres right now is great. You got the owner that wants to spend money. You potentially have a salary cap coming in to limit your competition, although it's going to limit you to a certain extent. You have potential pools of TV contract money coming in the near future when they settle the CBA and pool some of those. Those are all things that benefit small market teams that have owners that want to spend money. So I think today is a positive for the Padres. I think this is a positive step for Padres fans. I think this is something to be excited about moving forward. And honestly, I think that I think with the worries that might happen with people when it comes to the Padres of like, how are they going to pay these contracts? How are they going to do this? How are they going to do that? I think a lot of those issues go away. I really do. And here's the other thing. This is a ownership group now, Feliciano, that wants to spend money. And if he can't do it on the cap, guess what he's going to do it on? Development, facilities, bringing up better players, being better in the development game, which is what the Dodgers are also good at. That's another positive, I think, out of this entire thing. But when we come back, we're going to get even more details on this sale. We're going to, kind of put a bow on it for a little bit in the noon hour. We will dive into a little bit more of the missed in all of this. The Padres won last night. They won their 8th straight game, 7th straight against teams that just swept the Astros. They won 8 straight. They're only 2 games off the pace that they were last year through 19 games. We'll talk more about the actual X's and O's on the field later on in the show, late 12 o'clock hour, early 1 o'clock hour. But when we come back, we'll hear from Jared Diamond, who was on with Ben and Woods earlier this morning. A lot of interesting things about potentially the new owner of the Padres for $3.9 billion. We'll get to that when we come back. Braden Surprenant Show, Santa Cruz Urban Sports Station 97 through the Fan. College sports is changing fast, and Cal might be showing us the future. The California Golden Bears are laying off up to 25 staff members, not because they want to, because they have to. They're dealing with a $24 million deficit, rising costs, and less TV money after leaving the Pac-12. So what's their solution? A complete reset in their athletic department. They're launching something called Strawberry Creek Studios, turning their entire athletic department into a content and revenue machine, not just promoting sports, but selling them, producing them, and monetizing it at a whole new level. And honestly, this might be where college athletics is headed. With NIL, revenue sharing, and realignment shaking everything up, schools aren't just competing on the field anymore, they're competing financially. The question is, can programs like Cal adapt fast enough to survive, or is this the beginning of a bigger divide in college sports? This week in college athletics, one of the most telling stories about the future of the industry isn't happening on the field, it's happening behind the scenes at California and the Golden Bears athletic department. The department is undergoing a massive internal shakeup, laying off potentially 25 staff members across marketing, communications, and creative services. That's a significant portion of the people responsible for telling the story of Cal sports.
Yeah, and it's not just cost cutting, it's complete restructuring. Cal is launching something called Strawberry Creek Studios, which they described as a shift from traditional promotional model to a full-scale content and revenue engine, with the goal being to drive money and create a more authentic storytelling system in a rapidly changing college sports landscape. So, I mean, this is really driven out of financial pressure and more or less desperation somewhat.
Yeah, this is definitely a financial move. Cal is staring at a $24.3 million shortfall, combined with ongoing debt from stadium renovations and reduced media revenue after leaving the Pac-12 Conference for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Add in rising travel costs, coaching salaries, and a new era of NIL plus revenue sharing. Schools are being squeezed from every angle, and Cal isn't alone. Across the country, programs are trying to figure out how to survive, and in some cases, stay relevant. Schools like the University of Kentucky are getting proactive, even restructuring into new business models to prepare for paying athletes directly. But here's the key difference. Kentucky's trying to scale up. Cal is just trying to stay afloat. And that brings us to football, the engine that drives everything. Cal brought in Ron Rivera as general manager to modernize the program. And after moving on from Justin Wilcox, they've handed the reins to Tosh Lupoi, a high-energy recruiter who's already building buzz. The hope is simple: win games, generate revenue, and stay naturally relevant before the next round of conference realignment hits. Because make no mistake, college sports is no longer about wins and losses. It's about business survival. I mean, just wait for private equities who have started to invest in money into athletic departments, see what they do. As somebody that works firsthand in college athletics, I will say the people that are getting cut in these jobs are very important to how the game is presented and put on. And these people already don't make any money. Working in college athletics is incredibly difficult because there's no money in it. There's really no money in it. So every time I hear people complain that athletes aren't getting paid and everybody's making money off of them, they're not. Maybe it's the school president who's making money off of all the kids at the school anyway, if you want to get into the weeds. I mean, we talk about like medical hospitals for schools are making money off of free labor. All that. You want to play that game, fine. But the reality is most people that work in college athletics that are professionals are already not making any money. And you know what they're doing? They're getting rid of these people. They're getting rid of sports and information directors. These are the people that have to report things for NCAA record holding. And these people are getting replaced to tell a better story. How do you trust anything coming out of any of these schools if this continues to go that way to try to make everything based on money? Now, you want to talk about subscriptions like we talked about the NFL? Do you think that this content's going to be free content on social media from these universities, from Strawberry Creek Studios? Are you kidding me? This thing's going to be all about money. These are the repercussions, Frank, to paying teenagers money to play a sport.
It's not even that. It's also self-inflicted out of Cal because they didn't have to move out of the Pac-12 to go to the Atlantic Coast Conference. And one of the things that they're saying is rising travel costs. That's self-inflicted. You chose to do that. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to pick a predominantly East Coast conference to go to. So rising coach salaries, that is what it is. NIL revenue sharing, yeah, that's going to affect everybody. But seriously, part of that $24.3 million, the university has to look at themselves and go, yeah, we kind of did that one to ourselves.
Yeah, but they also would be making way less money if they didn't do that. I mean, that's the other alternative. It was like you got left behind. Broadcasting for the Bill House Studios, we know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Obviously, if you're just tuning in and you missed the news, Padres expected to sell now to Jose Feliciano for $3.9 billion. Talked a lot about Jose Feliciano. We've gotten to know a little bit about Jose Feliciano in terms of the research and everything like that. But take a look at what he brings. It sounds like he's somebody that's going to spend money. That's all you need to really know about an ownership group. especially somebody that's paying $3.9 billion for a team. So I think it's all good right now to be a Padres fan. Earlier today, Jared Diamond, who writes for the Wall Street Journal, who broke the news this morning, was on with Ben and Woods, had a lot of good information to relay across. And the first question that the boys asked Jared Diamond this morning was how today's story came together.
Quite a big day in the history of the San Diego Padres, for sure. So, as you mentioned, it looks like they've got a deal. Jose Feliciano and his wife, Quanta Jones, going to buy the team. They emerged from a group of quite a few bidders that were willing to pay quite a bit. And we've heard that there were multiple bids of $3.5 billion or more for the Padres. You've probably heard of some of the other people that were involved, guys like Joe Lacob, who's the owner of the Warriors, and Dan Friedkin was another name that kept popping up. But ultimately, it was Feliciano and his wife who emerged victorious. And it's a big number. $3.9 billion for baseball. It's not just a record, it's record shattering. The largest purchase for a baseball team until this was about $2.4 billion. That was the Mets, Steve Cohen, back in 2020. So it's been 6 years since then. The Padres just beat that number by $1.5 billion. The San Diego Padres are now the most expensive baseball team ever to be sold in the history of the sport by a huge margin. And I think that just says it's an incredible testament to what Peter Seidler did to the Padres. He bought the team with Ron Fowler for $800 million back in 2012. And now they're being sold for $3.9 billion. It's really unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable. But that's what happens when, I don't know, Frank, you spend money on a roster and you win. Isn't that a crazy concept?
Couldn't be.
Isn't that a crazy concept? That's a concept that it always be thrown out there sometimes, and people be like, "Oh, that's not always the case." That's small market teams always are like, "Nah, you can't make money like that." Excuse me? Padres just proved it. They just proved it. They bought the team for $800 million. They're selling for $3.9 billion. They're making $3.1 billion in profit, theoretically. Now, of course, they have debts that they're going to get paid off and all that, yada, yada, yada. But overall, whoever was in on that original group or who's still with that group, with the Seidler family, it's a big payday. But you know what? They put the money into the team. You know, I saw someone earlier be like, yeah, well, sometimes people buy a house and they sit on it for the value to go up. You know what increases the value quickly, Frank? Upgrades.
Yeah.
Remodel.
Funny how that works.
New kitchen, all this other stuff. I mean, I'm sure real estate agents could tell me exactly what's more valuable than other things that you can improve to your house, but that makes it happen faster. So they're not going to just buy not to get spend the $3.9 billion on a team and then not spend any money or cut the thing down.
I love what I'm seeing in the chat. Bring in Vladdy, bring in everyone. Give Xander another $280 million. Let's go. Fantastic.
Oh my God. People just and then, don't tell me what to do in the YouTube chat. That's all I got to say. It's just, people are worried about whether or not the guy's going to spend money. The guy has a track record of spending money. I think he's going to spend money. Yeah, sure. I guess. But here's the other thing too, Frank. Let's say he buys the team and just does nothing. Guess what? It's not they're not tearing down the team.
Still have a good team.
You're still spending the money. It's just people have to be upset about something sometimes. It's like there's no reason to be upset. Stop overthinking it. You want to know if the guy spends money or not? He does it with Chelsea. They've done it in the past. That's all you really need to know. Let's get back to what Jared Diamond was saying. What does Jared Diamond know about Jose Feliciano in his research, as he was the one that broke the news for the Wall Street Journal?
So I think it's important to note that while he's obviously involved in Chelsea, that is not his personal investment, right? Chelsea is owned by a group that involves others. With Clear Lake, his private equity firm, this is his own private investment. This is not owned by.
On the Mercedes-Benz thing, you're just going to take.
Well, sorry about that. What was that?
I don't
know. Padres will be owned by him and his wife personally. So there is a difference there.
Okay.
with Chelsea, look, yes, they've taken some criticism for how they've run the team in Chelsea. No question about it. But I do think it's important to note that spending money has not necessarily been the criticism. They've shown a willingness to spend in Chelsea. And like you mentioned, he is buying into an asset with the Padres that has shown a winning formula. The San Diego Padres, have ranked in the top 5 in attendance in Major League Baseball each of the last 5 seasons. It's going to be 6 seasons when this year's over. They currently rank number 2. He is buying into something that is working. Now, are there going to be changes? I'm sure there's going to be changes. Every time someone buys a team, there are changes. I have no idea what it's going to mean for the Padres payroll. We've already seen in recent years the payroll start to go down a little bit from the highs that it was in sort of the height of Peter Seidler's spending. But I do believe what has been proven with the Padres is, will they be the number 3 or 4 payroll team under Feliciano? I can't promise you they will, but do I think they're going to remain where they are now, going to sort of remain in that top 10? I do, because it's shown that it could work, right? They've shown that it could work. They show that when they spend, it brings people to the ballpark. I just don't see why you come in and change a formula that really is working for this team. The one thing I do know about Feliciano, he has made it in our reporting, it's become very clear that he intends to move sort of the bulk, or at least I don't want to say the bulk. I don't want to get into specifics, but a large portion of his philanthropic efforts, move them to San Diego. Our understanding is he intends to start investing a lot in the San Diego community. He's obviously not a San Diego person, which I think always is a concern when you have a new owner, but by all accounts, he is prepared to sort of start spending and giving in the San Diego community, which I think is critical for a new owner. So I think that's a good sign. And beyond that, we'll have to wait and see. But I do think it's important to realize the reason people were spending so much on the Padres is the Padres were a desirable asset, and they were a desirable asset in large part because of the success they're having.
That needs to be reproduced over and over and over and over again, because that is what the big concern is. Because I still think people are scorned from previous owners of other sports teams here in town. And the reality is this team has shown that this ownership group's not like that with Peter Seidler's family. And then the new ownership group, I love the fact that he's moving everything to San Diego. That's great news. I mean, and here's the other thing, too, that's there's a couple things that stood out to me on that last quote from Jared Diamond. One was he's moving all of his charity organizations here. He doesn't have to do that, but I think that's important. He's moving a lot of his business ventures. He wants to invest in the community. That's great news for the city of San Diego in general, Frank. That's great for everybody in the city of San Diego to bring in somebody like this that can pump money into the city's economy. That's fantastic.
100%.
The other thing that really stood out to me, and a couple of things that Jared Diamond said, was this is not Clear Lake Capital buying the Padres. This is separate. This is Jose Feliciano buying the Padres. This is his own personal asset. This is his own personal team. This is not a shared venture like he has with Chelsea. He's moving here to San Diego, or he's moving his entities here to San Diego. I don't know if he's moving here. I would imagine he might be moving here if he's going to spend a lot of time here. And I think he is locked into being a San Diegan. His wife apparently, reportedly, is from L.A. I haven't really confirmed that, but it sounds like that is part of the process. Clear Lake Capital is based in Santa Monica. I mean, he obviously has Southern California ties, if you will, and somebody that wants to be here. And Brit Goli said it on our show earlier this hour, but the reality is, you got money like this and you want to have an asset like this, and you try to go to places that you want to live. San Diego's a wonderful place to live. He obviously wants to be here in San Diego. The fact that he's moving everything here to San Diego, I think, is fantastic. I think those are the two biggest takeaways of what Jared Diamond said on Ben and Woods. How long is the next clip that we have about him and his wife owning the team?
153.
We have a little bit of time. Let's get to it.
So Feliciano and his wife are going to be equal economic. They have equal economic stake in the Padres. It really is going to be a partnership in terms of the financial ownership of the team. His wife is named Kwanzaa Jones. It's a name you'll be certainly hearing a lot about as well over the next few weeks and months and years. For the purposes of Major League Baseball, Jose Feliciano is going to be the control person. There can only be one, right? There can only be one control person, the person who actually votes on things in the eyes of MLB. That for now is going to be Feliciano. Jose Feliciano is going to be the first Puerto Rican majority owner in Major League history. Kwanzaa Jones is going to be the first African-American majority owner in Major League history. So that's very cool. I mean, I think it's great when you see that kind of diversity coming into the sport. You want ownership that looks like the people that live in your community and go to your games and represent your fan base. So I think that's only a positive thing. And in general, it just shows that there was this much interest in the Padres. Just shows how desirable of a franchise they are, right? They play in San Diego. They play in a city where you are the only show in town when it comes to major professional sports. You play in one of the best ballparks in the game, and a ballpark that you could use 365 days a year because of the incredible weather in San Diego. That's why the team sold for $3.9 billion, because people with a lot of money see San Diego, they see the Padres, they see the winning, they see the ballpark, they see the city and go, that is a place where I could really build something, grow something. And Peter Seidler saw that. And you hope that Jose Feliciano sees it too. I don't think he'd be paying this much money if he didn't.
Have we not been saying that for the last 4 or 5 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months?
Yeah, it seems like something that we always say on the show.
Everybody was like, no, they're going to, it's not going to happen. They're just going to You don't have to be miserable all the time. It's okay. It's okay to be positive.
And like you said, it is a valid fear to have about past ownership groups here in San Diego.
Before the Seidlers and in other sports teams that are now no longer here.
It is a 100% valid fear to have. But you cannot block out reality, and you cannot block out all of the evidence pointing in the direction that that is not going to happen again in this particular case, while being concerned about that. You have to look at the reality, and you have to look at what is going on. And everything points to the fact that this is not going to be the Spanoses. This is not going to be prior Padre ownership groups. This is a completely different turn. This is a launching pad. This is not a downturn for this team.
Yeah, the checkbook isn't closing. I think it's getting open wider, if you will. And we're going to get more of your phone calls throughout the day, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I think A-Bomb in the YouTube chat brought up a good point. Overall, for somebody with the track record of spending money on his sports teams, he's probably going to continue to do the exact same thing he's already been doing. It can't be a bad thing that the biggest, as multiple people now have said, the biggest criticism that Chelsea gets is that they spend all this money and they haven't been able to do anything with it. You want them to spend the money. I don't know how the ownership group works over there at Chelsea. And who knows? He's not the full owner of Chelsea. He's a co-owner with a group. All you care about is whether or not he spends money or not. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that was going to be the case for all four of these potential bidders. So the only cause for concern that you would have when there's a team sell, the new ownership group that's being reported is not going to do the things that you'd be afraid of. And that's what the entire first 2 hours of the show has really been about. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Get a deeper dive into what Feliciano has done with Chelsea. When we come back, Drake Hills will join us.
From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime use.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
New Lunchtime Hour of the Fan is brought to you by the Craft Taco. Both flavors, 2 locations, Sorrento Valley and inside Balboa Park's Natural History Museum. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. Live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's Urban Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan. Obviously, a lot of news today with the San Diego Padres. We haven't even talked about last night's game at all. We haven't talked about how much Chris and Scripps Ranch was right about something. Double checked a lot of the swing metrics. And the funny thing is a lot of the analytics say exactly what Chris and Scripps Ranch said yesterday. We'll talk about that later on when he talks about Jake Cronenworth. Walker Buehler's outing yesterday. I mean, so much from the game yesterday was filling up our rundown, and we wake up to breaking news because you know why? We had the whole thing planned out last night. Everything was locked in, dialed in, all set, and then can't complain, though. It's pretty awesome to have news like this.
To be fair. I always write the show a day in advance. So it's the fact that you participated in helping, I think, might have been the jinx to it. Because I don't do the show in the morning.
It's the fact that we put detailed notes on everything.
Yeah,
we have the topics on there that we want to do, and then we do the detailed notes in the morning. We did all the detailed notes last night.
I think it's because you helped me. I think it's because you helped me do it. Like we actually worked together on the show instead of just me doing it.
It's true. Well, I mean, I do that all the time. Do all my stuff. You put everything out there the night before, and then I add all my stuff. And then in the morning before you get here, there's usually a bunch of changes on different things. But I tell you what, every time that I have put things on the rundown in all aspects, breaking news happens. So, you want to find out about Lucas Giolito? I'll plan out Monday's show when I get off the air today. Without further ado, now Drake UC joins us to talk about San Diego FC. We might briefly talk about San Diego FC. I highly doubt we will dive into a lot of the details about that, but I think a lot of people want some clarification on Chelsea FC because obviously Jose E. Feliciano, who is now reportedly the main person to buy the Padres for an estimated $3.9 billion, he is a co-owner of Chelsea FC. And people want to know and this is going to be the case regardless of who won the bid, if you will, to own the Padres. Fans are always going to be nervous about, is the team going to spend? How do they spend? How do they operate their business? Is this an owner of a team that's not very good? Yada, 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 yada. Frank looks through things through a Chelsea FC tone glasses. So for the Blues. So he was already Big Ten PR Frank earlier, but for a more neutral update and for what actually goes on at Chelsea and what Chelsea has done over the last couple of years, we bring on our guest for our Soccer 101 that we do each and every Friday, and Drake Hills. He is a contributing writer for Black Players for Change, writes internationally on soccer for ESPN.com as a contributing writer. Drake Hills joins us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better, but for Drake, a little bit of a change in direction that we usually do with you on Fridays. Not talking about San Diego soccer, but talking about a San Diego sport that is impacted by soccer today.
Yeah, someone who knows a whole lot about soccer from the global perspective. Obviously, Chelsea probably in terms of its, not just the trophies that they've won over the last 20 years, but I'd honestly think from a net worth perspective, are probably in the top 10, top 5 biggest clubs in the world. Then Jose Feliciano and Todd Bowley are certainly a part of it.
Let's talk about Jose Feliciano. I mean, from your knowledge and your experience in paying attention to Chelsea, obviously, what has Chelsea been like with this ownership group that took over in about 2021, 2022? What has the tenure been for Chelsea?
Yeah, Chelsea, just to give a quick background, like this is a club that it was basically from 2004 up to the first quarter of 2022 were owned by a Russian oligarch by the name of Roman Abramovich. And Mr. Abramovich was well liked because he brought in millions and millions of dollars, but in a way that was very strategic, that bought some of the greatest players in the history of the game, Didier Drogba, Michael Ballack, Ashley Cole, who technically had come in a little bit before from Arsenal, but turned Chelsea into not only one of the best clubs in England, but one of the best clubs in the world. But when Jose came in after, obviously, the sanctions that came down from the Russia invasion of Ukraine, obviously, Mr. Abramovich was forced to sell the club. But the biggest thing is for Jose Feliciano, the biggest narrative is the amount of money that he spent. I mean, we're talking about around $3 billion almost immediately over the course of, I want to say, 3 or 4 consecutive transfer windows. And it hasn't really led to much success. I mean, if we're looking at even in Chelsea in today's English Premier League, they're 6th in the Premier League. They've had a pretty inconsistent time. They had a very messy exit of leadership, which is also unlike Chelsea. So I would say to you guys and to everyone listening, Chelsea FC is in a chaos chapter of life. They've brought in more players in the English Premier League than any other club. They've surpassed the losses of that of Manchester City. They're actually, if you look at the numbers, they're anywhere between, I would say, 1.6 billion pounds in pre-tax losses. They spent over $1 billion in transfers over the last 2 years that won a Champions League just a few years ago. So I think for me, Clear Lake, which is the group that Feliciano who had co-founded with Egbali, who those two represent over 60% of the Chelsea ownership group. These two are disruptors. They like to go into a setting and they like to say, we're going to do it our way. We're going to bring in the guys that we want to bring in, and we're going to get guys out that don't want to be a part of it. But I do think, Braden, that I think Feliciano is going to move a little bit different, especially with the new CBA that is going to be on the horizon.
We're talking with Drake Hills, who is a contributing writer for Black Players for Change. He covers soccer for us here on the Braden Surprenant show. And I think a lot of things that like Padres fans are afraid of are like, he doesn't, getting an owner that doesn't want to win and doesn't want to spend money. And this particular situation is also different, where it's not Clear Lake Capital buying the Padres. It's Feliciano and his wife that are buying the Padres.
That's
and it
correct.
Sounds like he's moving a lot of his philanthropic organizations here. It sounds like he is moving, other entities. He's going to invest in San Diego. Might be operating the Padres a little bit differently than he did with Chelsea. But the fact of the matter is, regardless if it's spending money to get rid of bad contracts or to bring in new talent, it's not a lack of spending money that is, the problem for Chelsea FC. And I think that's the biggest reassuring thing to a lot of Padres fans, Drake, is Feliciano wants to win and he spends money in order to try to win.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. Jose Feliciano and his wife, Kwanzaa Brown, Princeton grads, they have a very high octane nonprofit group that helps nonprofits, grow. And the Feliciano and Kwanzaa Brown Supercharged Initiative, I think there's one thing that Padre fans should know with Jose Feliciano is that he's going to go in, and I think to what Padres fans have been used to in the past, I want to say 4 to 6 years, has been like, we're not going to be afraid to take a decent risk to make this team better. But I also think take a look at Cole Palmer. Like, I think for people who don't really know a whole lot about soccer or European soccer, something that I really admired about Jose E. Feliciano, is that he took someone like Cole Palmer, who, if you just go back to 2022, was kind of waiting in the wings as a 20-year-old out of the Manchester City Academy. By 2023, he's brought into Chelsea just a little bit over a year after Jose E. Feliciano takes over co-ownership. And Cole Palmer is one of the better attacking players as an attacking midfielder or winger, not just for Chelsea FC, but for England. And so I think that what the Padres should expect is someone who is willing to take calculated risks, who is willing to look at, hey, here's some of the up-and-coming talented players in the big leagues, not just in the Padres minor league system, but around, just like the Seidler family has done in bringing in a Xander Bogaerts. Obviously, some incredible trades that we were able to look at and see, wow, like Michael King has panned off very well for this team. So I think things like that you will probably see with the Padres moving forward, just as though with Chelsea FC.
Let's talk about from an ownership perspective. Obviously, you might know a little bit more than maybe some others, but let's talk about the fact for he's a co-owner with Todd Boehly, who is also a Dodgers part owner. How has that relationship worked for Chelsea FC? Obviously, you said Feliciano's got 60%. Him and Clear Lake Capital have 60% of Chelsea FC. Who is the main leader of Chelsea FC? Who runs Chelsea FC the most, and what's that relationship like from your perspective?
Yeah, so as though Todd Boehly kind of came in there first, but with Clear Lake, there's Bedad Iqbali, who is a businessman. He's an Iranian American businessman who, alongside Jose E. Feliciano, they're the co-founders of Clear Lake Capital. So those are the two leads, Iqbali and Feliciano. They have a little bit over 60% stake in Chelsea Football Club, and Todd Boehly and a couple of others kind of represent, I think, around 31% of Chelsea Football Club. So I think the front men have been Iqbali and Feliciano. And so what that means, though, is that the relationship between the two is that the majority of the money has really come from Feliciano and Iqbali from Clear Lake Capital. But Todd Boehly, as you mentioned, kind of coming from the Los Angeles Dodgers ownership, he is the chairman of Chelsea Football Club. So he looks at pretty much being the face and a lot of the decision-making that takes place, obviously a lot of the finances on a day-to-day basis. Todd Boehly is the chairman, so that's the relationship between the two.
We're talking with Drake Hills, who's a contributing writer for Black Players for Change. He covers soccer for us each and every Friday as our Soccer 101. We're talking a little bit more differently here about soccer, just trying to get a little bit of sense of what Jose E. Feliciano brings to the table as an owner, and he owns Chelsea FC, as we've talked about, all throughout the afternoon today. But when talking about this particular ownership group and everything with Chelsea, a lot of things came up today on social media. You're going to have some doomers out there that are posting like Chelsea's in debt for this and that and the other, and they have to pay all these agent fees and everything like that.
Right.
Explain for us and try to relate it back to American sports about what are the some of the financial issues that Chelsea FC has had and why it's different from what maybe American sports fans, might think it is, because it sounds like they're spending all this money and they're racking up fees in doing so. It's not of we're losing a ton of money because nobody watches and we're terrible.
Yeah. So just to give a different, almost like a layman's terms translation here. So in soccer, you have straight up signing players where it's really a one-way transaction. And what that means is that if the Padres, in a world where the Padres would get let's say they get a new catcher, or they would get a new second baseman or a new left fielder, apart from cash considerations, there is not necessarily, it would be normal for there not to be another player on the other side of the deal. However, the severity of whatever the transaction is taking place, the agents or the agent that represents the player that would be coming into the Padres clubhouse would get a significant fee from that transaction. And those agent fees are not one-time hits. They are basically amortized over the course of a year or 2 years, depending on the volume of the transaction. So if you're really looking at the $1.6 billion that Chelsea is kind of having to eat, a decent chunk of that is going to agent fees, which is a little about 60, I think around 60 million or so. That has kind of put them into a really tough process. But here's what I really want Padre fans to kind of understand from this is that I get it that there's maybe a sense of like doom and gloom that fans may be a little nervous about, but there are some positive parallels that I think in terms of like how Mr. Feliciano has done with Chelsea that may work very well when it comes to the Padres. And I think one of those things is that they see the development of younger prospects. And I think the way the Padres have done is they've drafted well. They've had a lot of minor league prospects that have come in. The Feliciano and the Iqbali crew, they've done a really good job in profiting from the younger players. And I think that's allowed Chelsea to get some of those bigger players. I mentioned Cole Palmer being one of them. But I think that's a good parallel that I think that a lot of fans should look at is, hey, like they're like the Padres are in a place where they're talented. They have good young talent as well. And so I think there's a lot of parallel in terms of the talent development over the course of years.
In your opinion, how important is it that it sounds like this is going to be I wouldn't say family business, but it's Jose Feliciano, it's his wife, and they're moving a bunch of their, as we talked about before, charities to San Diego. They want to invest in the community. How important is that, to really making the Padres their own and wanting it to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that Chelsea, so far, like they have a very big value in not just the team itself, but also the stadium is a big part of Chelsea's history. And I think when you look at the Padres, it's very well known that Petco Park is one of the best ballparks, one of the favorite ballparks for fans to go to. And it doesn't matter if, you're a Mets fan. Like I've gone to Padres games from the 100 level deck all the way up to the 300 level deck. And I've sat next to Mets fans, to Phillies fans, to Giants fans who regularly come down to San Diego for a 3-game series because they absolutely love it. But I would say that because of Feliciano and Miss Brown's philanthropy, there is a big investment to not just the baseball community of San Diego, but to San Diego in general. I think there's a lot of, what you would call as like corporate social responsibility that doesn't really talk about baseball, whether that's housing, that can be local charities, grassroots initiatives. And that's something that I think Padres fans are quite familiar with the Seidler family, is thinking about, how this team is a part of the community. And similarly to Chelsea, like they've been run as a very polished team in the West London community, and not just in West London, but in London in general. So I think there is a balance between, there's a feel of it being firm owned from a capital financial perspective, but I also think there is that
community enrichment portion to what Mr. Feliciano is going to bring to San Diego.
We do got to get going here on a break, but real quick, what's your latest update for us on San Diego FC?
Yeah, San Diego, I mean, they're just right now, they are going from the control of what they've really enjoyed over the last season and even the first 3 or 4 games of the year. Another 2-1 loss to Minnesota United over the weekend. But it's just an example of what it takes sometimes to kind of go through the tough parts when you're playing a lot of your youth, right? So whether that be, Brian Zamble gets a start at left wing. You have Lewis Morgan, a natural winger, who's playing as a number 9, trying to balance a lot of the minutes, some knocks here and there, some injuries. Marcus Ingvartsen comes in during the game as a sub. This is just a part of when you're playing younger talent. And for some reason, Chris McVeigh is continuous with his double yellows and eventually getting sent off. So San Diego's just having to go through the tough parts, but it's still something that can still be salvaged. Plenty of soccer left to play. So I wouldn't be worried at this point.
Drake, we appreciate all the information today. I know it's a lot. We look forward to talking to you about the MLS and San Diego FC next week. And thanks again for the time.
Absolutely. You guys take care, and congrats to Padres fans. It's going to be an exciting future.
I think so too, Drake. Drake Hill's joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, AJ Preller was on with the morning show as part of the manager report. We'll get to what he said as we continue. The NHL regular season is coming down to the wire, and even though most playoff teams are set, the chaos is just getting started. Seeding is still up for grabs, and that matters, or does it? Because here's the reality. Being a top seed in the NHL doesn't guarantee you anything. Avalanche already locked up the best record in hockey, and the Hurricanes are about to take the East, but that doesn't mean they're safe. Why? Because wildcard teams like the Kings and the Predators can sneak in, and those are the most dangerous teams in the playoffs. Already playing do-or-die hockey. At the same time, the MVP race just flipped. Nikita Kucherov is now leading over Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. So everything is happening at once. Playoff races, MVP battles, and teams fighting for positioning. But the biggest question is this: does seeding actually matter, or is it all about who gets hot at the right time? Because in the NHL, momentum changes everything. The NHL regular season is officially down to its final days, and while the NHL playoff spots are mostly locked in, seeding chaos is everywhere heading into the Stanley Cup playoffs this weekend. At the top, Colorado already has clinched the President's Trophy, locking in home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. Meanwhile, Carolina Hurricanes are closing in on the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, continuing their dominant season. But the real drama, well, it's in the middle. The Atlantic Division is still a 3-team race with the Buffalo Sabres, Montreal Canadiens, and Tampa Bay Lightning, all within a couple of points, meaning matchups could flip at the last second. Out west, the wild card race is pure chaos. The LA Kings currently control their own destiny, but teams like Nashville and San Jose are still mathematically alive. Bottom line, who knows who's in, but we don't know who's playing who yet. As we record this on Monday, the biggest takeaway to me is, and I know we're going to take a deeper dive into what to watch this week, but the reality is the NHL playoff format used to be great, and they changed it, and it doesn't make any sense now of why they're doing it this way. There's teams with a lot of good wins, and actually more wins in regulation, missing the postseason for teams that lose a lot in overtime. The way the seeding plays out doesn't make a lot of sense. I like the old system. The new one is creating for the wrong kind of controversy.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter in a way, because the NHL postseason always brings out some of the craziness that sports has to offer. It is by far and away the most entertaining, the best entertainment for value playoff out of any of the 4 major sports. I would take the NHL playoffs over anything right about now.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, they had top 8 in each conference, and then they would reseed. Seeding actually did probably matter. I mean, you have really good matchups in the first round with highly competitive teams, but you're eliminating some of your best teams in the early rounds instead of like later on. I don't necessarily know if it's the best path for the playoffs, but Tonight's slate, as we record this on Monday, and I might have to post this one today and post a different one on Thursday that we usually do. But Monday's slate is massive. Playoff positioning and eliminations on the line. The Kings can clinch a playoff spot with a win. Flyers can lock into a playoff matchup with the Penguins. Hurricanes can secure the number 1 seed in the East. Sabres can win the Atlantic Division. And don't overlook the Pacific Division. The Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers are battling for the top spot. Then that could determine the easier or much harder path at round 1. At the same time, the draft lottery is shaping up with teams like the Blackhawks and the Rangers already locked into top odds. I look at like my own team in the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, what a poor time to start playing poor hockey. They had a chance to clinch on Sunday night, finally a playoff spot, which seems to be inevitable, but they continue to push it down the road with 2 games left as they get ready to play the Wild later this week. They had a chance against the Canucks on Sunday, a team that has been awful all season, and they lose in overtime.
Yeah, we've brought up the fact that last week, the New York Islanders firing their head coach, Patrick Waugh, to try to snap the team into better form. They did win their first game under Peter DeBoer, but they've lost the next 2. They're now out of the playoffs, and most teams at this point, again, on Monday as we record, only have about another game, maybe 2 left in the season. So it is really down to crunch time in the NHL right now.
As the season wraps, the biggest individual storyline is the MVP race. And right now, Frank, it's getting pretty heated at the top.
Yeah, right now, Nikita Kucherov surging into the lead for the Hart Trophy, the MVP of the league. Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon right now are right up there with him. Nikita Kucherov's case, he carried Tampa through injuries, still putting up insane numbers. Meanwhile, Zach Werenski now leading in the Norris race. New York Islander rookie Matthew Schaefer seems to be a lock for Rookie of the Year, and Andrei Vasilevsky leading the Vezina Trophy race as the best.
Live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's Urban Sports Station 97.3, The Fan. When we get to the 1 o'clock hour, we're going to transition the show back into actual on-field Padres baseball talk. Lot to break down with Jake Cronenworth and some things that Chris from Scripps Ranch called in and talked about that we almost got confirmed via analytics. We'll explain in the 1 o'clock hour. We will also break down what Walker Buehler did last night. Padres on an 8-game winning streak. Lots to get to in the 1 o'clock hour. Preview of the Halos as the Padres take on the Angels for 3 games over the weekend. Before that was the beginning of a pretty long road trip for them. They're going to go to Anaheim, Colorado, and then Mexico City for 2 games.
While all of this is going on, there has been a transaction made.
I saw that
by the Padres. Matt Waldron up, Alec Jacob down. Waldron is going to get the start tonight. I have a feeling it's because they don't want him too far off of what his scheduled start from El Paso was supposed to be, because that was supposed to be 2 days ago. So it'll be so German Marquez gets pushed back a day, so it'll be Waldron tonight, Marquez tomorrow, and then King on Sunday.
I just like how the entire time they were like this week, it could be Friday, Saturday, I don't really know. And like Matt Waldron just straight up said, I'm pitching. They told him I'm pitching Friday. He's expected to pitch Friday.
Yeah, so he's
give Marquez an extra day off.
That's fine. Marquez gets bumped back a day, and this is after Waldron more or less gets bumped back 2. So
Padres are going to play. They're going to play the Angels for the next 3. They got swept up in Anaheim in 2024, by the way. Hopefully that's not the case. They got to go to Colorado, which is always a hellhole in terms of having to deal with games, and then they go to Mexico City for 2 against the Diamondbacks. Is that the same? That's the same place that they played a couple of years ago, where like every ball that was hit remotely hard left the building
on the first day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Wow. That's going to be fun.
Well, no,
Pad
remember
your stat time. They won one of the games. They lost the other one. Musgrove, like his ERA jumped to like an 8 because like any fly ball flew out of the ballpark.
And they severely changed the balls for the next day, and it was not nearly as ridiculous the next day. So I have a feeling we're not going to see that first day again. We're not going to see a 20-16 game.
It was 16-11. What was the game? What was the other score?
I thought it was like
It's like 6-1, 6-2.
I thought they still hit a ton of home runs. I thought that was just like the whole weekend was just like,
No,
all right, cool.
I thought they really, from what I remember, they really curbed that for the next year. When was
Oh,
that?
for the next year, maybe.
No, for the next day. What was it? 2024 was
Mexico City series. Why isn't there a date on this box score? Yeah, the Padres won that first game 16-11. It was six. They were still
2023.
It was 6-4. There's still 10 runs being scored there.
It was severely. The wick was severely turned down from what it was the day before.
You think they flipped baseballs out of there? Wade Jr. hit a home run. Davis hit a home run. Haniger hit a home run. Nola hit a home run. There were still 5 home runs hit in that game.
Oh, never mind.
The first game just happened to have 12 home runs.
Pitchers learned how to pitch.
Yeah, or it's like, hey, maybe we should just get him to hit some more ground balls, I guess. I mean, think about some of the names I just mentioned that hit a home run. An Austin Nola, 440 feet home run.
It was an 11 home run first game, and the Padres scored in every inning but the 6th.
Game 2, Lamont Wade Jr.'s home run was 394 feet. Davis homered 382. Mitch Haniger hit a 460-foot home run, and Austin Nola hit a 440-foot home run. Absurd.
You remember? Well, you're looking at it. I was going to say, do you remember who got the win and save in that day?
On the second day?
No, the first day.
No, I was looking at the second day. Yeah, I forgot the Padres won both those games. That's kind of nice.
Tom Cosgrove got the win.
Wow.
And Nick Martinez got a 2-inning save with 5 strikeouts.
Padres put up 2 runs in the first, 1 in the second, 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth, 3 in the fifth, none in the sixth, slackers, 2 in the seventh, and 4 in the eighth. What a stupid game that was. How many home runs? Crawford hit a homer. Lamont Wade Jr. hit a homer. Nelson Cruz homered in that game. 442 feet.
Mitch Haniger, 456.
Soto, 448. Bogarts, 455. Tatis had like the shortest home run. 376. Machado, 442. Sable, 436. VR, 434. Machado again, 413.
Every single run except for 2. Well, except for 1.
No, there's a couple of doubles in there. You had the single by Nola. You had the Estrada double.
Every single run except for 2 that was scored between the 3rd and the 7th inning were home runs. Jake Cronenworth. Wait a minute. Oh, Nola single to center, scoring Cronenworth in the third.
Yeah.
And then Estrada doubled to left.
Just scored Wade.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
In the 4th. And then every other run between there was a home run.
Who do you think's signing up to pitch in the Mexico City series? Any volunteers? No, it's all right. It's all right, Skip. I'm a little tired. I don't know if I could do that.
Throw Joe and Pavetta out there. Their stats really aren't going to mean much for awards and stuff this season.
Foul.
He draws the foul.
Not a good one. Let's get out to Steve in Poway. Steve, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Hey, Braden.
What's up?
Yeah, I have basically a baseball question, and then I have a comment and a question to you guys, an opinion. I think this strike zone thing is one of the best things that's happened to baseball in a long time. Where they can question that or not. What do you think?
I think it's the best thing that they've come up with in a very long time, too, Steve. And here's the other thing. I think the umpires are getting better because of it. Because the ones at least that want to get it right are looking up at the board and they're like, all right, well, I got to adjust the zone a little bit. But at least you know what the zone is going to be. It's not fluctuating game to game. It's not fluctuating like, oh, he called that all night kind of. I think this is one of the best things that Major League Baseball has done. And they're doing it pretty quickly. I like it. What was your other comment?
Okay, here's my question, and I want your opinion. That being said, I think the play on the field should be exactly the same way. It should be between the runner and the player, and there's no looking at replay ahead of time. You either make a decision, whether you think you got him or you didn't get him, and you move on, just like they do, and quit this looking at replay before you decide whether you're going to, challenge it or not.
So Steve wants to, and I agree a little bit. I mean, they make it quick. You have like 3 or 4 seconds, right, Frank, to like tap your helmet.
It has to be your first baseball move coming out of the box after the pitch. So you can't like step back, adjust your gloves, and then tap. It has to be a step out, tap, or if you're a catcher, you have to tap it before you throw the ball back to the pitcher.
Right, but in like the replays, they all sit there, they wait. You have like 30 seconds to do it.
Yeah, 20-second delay.
And it's it takes a little bit more of time. I kind of agree. I mean, if you have to sit there and wait for them to slow it down and all this other stuff, all of a sudden you're taking away calls of just absolutely right there in the moment. Like if you saw it clearly from where you're at and you're like, you know what, we need to challenge this. I don't mind that. I think it would eliminate a lot of these like challenges of did he keep the glove all the way on and like where only cameras can really pick it up. But it's an interesting topic, interesting conversation. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we will dive more into Padres baseball in terms of what AJ Preller said on the management report today. We're going to hear from him on Ben and Woods when we come back. The NFL might be in trouble, but not on the field. The U.S. government is now investigating how the league sells its TV rights and whether it's costing you more money to watch games. Think about it. If you want to watch every NFL game today, you need cable, plus streaming services like Amazon Prime, ESPN, Netflix, and even YouTube. That adds up fast, and the NFL says it's still fan-friendly because local games are free. But let's be real. The biggest matchups are increasingly behind paywalls. And here's where it gets interesting. With new TV deals coming soon, the NFL is about to ask everybody for even more money, which could mean even more streaming exclusives. So the big question is, how much is too much for fans? Because at some point, the league risks turning America's most popular sport into a luxury that people can't afford. The NFL is facing unexpected pressure as the U.S. Department of Justice has launched an investigation into how the league sells its media rights. At the center of the issue, whether the NFL is hurting consumers by spreading games across multiple paid streaming platforms. Right now, NFL games are split across traditional networks like CBS Sports, Fox Sports, NBC Sports, along with streaming giants like Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, and YouTube. And while local games remain free, many marquee matchups now require multiple subscriptions, increasing the cost for fans as the league currently earns, Frank, that number says $10 billion annually from media rights and is preparing for even bigger deals after 2029.
Yeah, that's billion with a B. However, lawmakers, including Elizabeth Warren and Mike Lee, are questioning whether or not the NFL's antitrust exemption under the 1961 Sports Broadcasting Act still makes sense in today's modern streaming era. Meanwhile, traditional TV partners, especially companies like the Murdoch family, like Fox Corporation, might be pushing back as streaming platforms continue to grab larger shares of the game. So it's not just the government that's bringing this up. It's also the television companies that are bringing this up because they're losing more and more prime games to these streaming services.
The NFL is still king of television. Let's explain what this entire situation means. 83 of the top 100 broadcasts last year were NFL games, but the way fans watch is changing fast. This investigation could force the NFL to rethink how games are distributed. It could impact future TV and streaming deals and potentially lower or raise even more the cost for fans. And at the same time, tech companies like Amazon are already eyeing bigger prices, including possibly streaming a future Super Bowl. So the question is the NFL becoming too expensive and fragmented for the average fan to follow? To me, I think this is getting out of hand in a greedy side of all of these entities. And it's not just the NFL. I mean, this is all leagues and this is all levels of life where everything is on a subscription. And people are hurting right now trying to find, ways to make ends meet. And here's what a lot of these entities don't understand. Yes, they continue to raise money, but eventually people are going to stop paying for it because it's going to come between them eating and them paying for a house and then watching the NFL. And eventually it's going to price out more people. The reality is people are going, the market's eventually going to reset itself. But if people are still willing to pay for all of these streaming services, the NFL and all these other leagues and all these other entities of life are going to keep asking for more.
Especially Major League Baseball, because they're starting to get in on this as well. They have games on Netflix now. They have games on Peacock now. They have games on Apple TV now. So granted, they do have a lot more games that they can distribute. It's still, though, you're starting to see more and more of those big marquee matchups getting stuck behind paywalls, and you're losing. And think of, you know me, I'm not a big fan of the Yankees. But for Yankee fans, you have the Yes Network, My Nine, which is typical standard television. Now you have every Friday night behind the paywall of Amazon Prime. You've got almost every Sunday night game that was on ESPN. You have NBC games this year. You have Netflix games starting this year as well, plus the games that are stuck behind Apple TV. Just to watch the Yankees, just to be a Yankee fan, you need to have 8 or 9 different subscriptions, including cable, in order to just watch your team play. So if this goes well for the DOJ with the NFL, they're going to go right to baseball next. I have a strong feeling.
I think you're going to start going to all these leagues. I think they're going to cash in on all of these streaming services. In college, conference contracts are up in 2030. And they're going to get the same kind of treatment as a lot of these other leagues. And they're going to keep asking for the same thing. And here's the deal. Like, I'm somebody that pays for, we pay for Red Zone. And, Red Zone I think it's better than Sunday Ticket. Because I used to watch Sunday Ticket here. And it would work out because it was great to be able to watch the Chargers when I was living in Texas. And then, at that time I was in college. So my dad was watching all the other games. He could flip back and forth. Now without the Chargers, there's no reason for us to have Sunday Ticket. But with Red Zone, you don't even get all the games anymore, right? You pay for the Red Zone channel, you pay for Sunday Ticket. It's like, well, those don't include the streaming games. Those just include the ones that are on television. And you are continuing to pay more and more money for Sunday Ticket and for Red Zone, and you're getting less and less inventory because all the streaming sources are now chiming in to pay for things. It works for my family because everybody has their own little subscription fee, but everybody's paying for one platform, so we must have. 12:42 on a Friday here in America's finest city. Big news for the Padres, obviously, today with the report that might be under new ownership. Sounds like Jose E. Feliciano has won the bid for $3.9 billion to buy the San Diego Padres. Now, that being said, still a lot of details that need to be worked out in that particular situation. But earlier today on the manager's report, which is brought to you by SDCCU, it's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. AJ Preller was on with Ben and Woods, and he was asked about today's ownership reports. Here's what AJ Preller had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, it's been the process, been very public in terms of, the sale of the team. So again, I think it's going to be exciting to have some direction and clarity. And I think if the reports are accurate, I think it's a testament to, the idea over the last, 10 plus years that this is a major market and you can do a lot of great things in San Diego, and that concept that I think it's a testament to a lot of hard work by a lot of people in the organization, and obviously the teams that have gone out and played really well. That a lot of groups it sounds like they were super excited and wanted to own the Padres. So that's always a good thing, and I think a testament to the fans of San Diego that this has become as big as any baseball market in the game and a crown jewel franchise. So it's really cool to be a part of, and hopefully super exciting for everyone with the Padres and the fans of San Diego.
Obviously very exciting. I think also like being able to have some sort of sense of direction too for the front office of like the chain of command of getting things approved for roster decisions is probably the clarity that AJ Preller would like to have. And this is starting to solidify a little bit with this news. The boys also asked AJ Preller if he's met with any of the potential owners.
Yeah, on the baseball side, our focus is really with the team, and just and the roster and all the work that we have. We did get an opportunity in spring training for 2 afternoons to sit down with the finalists for a little bit. They had some questions about, again, they're buying into a baseball team. So, it was a little bit like speed dating, but I had a chance to do that. But most of the work, done through the group that the Seidler family had hired, and then Eric and his team at the office, and we were able to focus on the baseball side of things.
AJ Preller on with the morning show earlier today, talking about a lot of different things, part of the manager's report. But they did ask him about what he would tell a new owner that he needs to know.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is, the excitement and the passion that, that a lot of people in the organization have for winning championships and creating something special here. I talk about the big stage and that being the World Series. And, I think we have so many great people in the organization, and I think that's why we've been able to have a sustained run of success. So, I think any new ownership group, getting to know those people in the building, obviously getting to know our players and our staff, it's huge. So it's, but again, it starts with having really great people that have a big time passion for winning and are really good at what they do. And, I'm sure the new group is going to be super excited to meet everybody and hopefully everybody on the same page to go bring a championship to San Diego.
We weren't going to get too much information out of AJ Preller when it came to the ownership group and everything like that. Obviously, a lot of those details still need to be hashed out and everything. And that wasn't the only part of this conversation. We are going to play some of the sound here right now about some of the things that go on the team. We haven't even talked about the team yet, or the fact that they've won 8 straight games, or anything that happened in last night's game. Today's been a lot of the ownership news for the San Diego Padres coming down. But, it's an 8-game winning streak. Obviously, as a general manager, you can't get too high, can't get too low. The guy's always trying to find improvements for this team. But what was the big takeaway for AJ Preller so far, and his thoughts on this winning streak that they're on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I think the last time we were on and talked was that opening day in Boston. So that's, I think, probably 2 weeks ago or so, and a lot of changes and really a day or two in baseball. So you have to, it's hard not to ride that wave. Every night you kind of get excited, good, bad, fair, and with what you see at 7:00, but it's baseball, so I think it's, usually everything kind of works out at the end of it. Guys that are hitting, 150 now will be hitting 300 by midseason, and at times vice versa. So, I think you try to just use the experience of the group, lean on obviously Ruben and Ben Fritz. They've done a great job at Walker, and more importantly, he continues to want to learn and grow as a pitcher, and his stuff has been really good the last 2 outings. His command's been good. He's gotten us deep in, he's gotten us into the game in a winning spot, and I'm glad for him. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, and last couple of years have been a struggle. So I'm sure it's a really good feeling for him to go out and contribute, and he knows that this is a competition here, and that he's not gonna, again, he's got to help the team, and he's not on a huge contract for a ton of years, and he knows he's got something to prove, and he's going out and continues to get better. So I'm really glad for him, because he's put the work in and he's seeing the results here right now.
And we're going to talk more about him later on in the next hour. We're going to also break down some other things that involve the team and what happened last night. Craig Stammen. He's got a lot of guys contributing right now. He's playing a lot of the players on the Padres. I think you're getting a lot out of this roster, and you can't say he's not doing that great of a job. The team's 13-6, and as we mentioned before, they're just 2 games off of the pace that they were last year through 19. Through 19 games last year, 15-4. Through 19 games this year, 13-6. I mean, it's relatively close to the start that they had last season when they won their first 7 games of the year. Padres have now just won 8 straight. The first time they've done that in a very long time. How has AJ Preller thought of the work that Craig Stammen has done so far through 19 games?
Yeah, I mean, Craig, again, I think a lot of familiarity between Craig and the organization, and obviously myself. So, but I think probably the biggest thing is just very genuine. He's very comfortable in his skin. I think you see in the like in the post-game press conferences and to the media, he's honest. If he did something that he feels like he could have done better, he just says, yeah, probably could have done that a little bit better, et cetera. And that's the way he is behind closed doors, and he's like that with the staff. And the staff is super connected and together, which is great to see. We've got a lot of talented coaches on staff and, people that put a lot of time into it. And I think with the players, like he's very consistent, and I think, he hasn't been afraid to try some different things and then admit if, hey, I could have maybe tried something different or new. And now he's kind of settled in on something that's been working for a while. So I think those are all good traits in a leader. He's got a lot of really good leadership traits. He's doing a really good job. And again, I think it's been a really, I think it's been a good run, both spring training and the early part of the season. And he'll be the first to admit he's going to be better in a couple months than he is now. And that's exciting to see.
Very exciting to see, obviously. And then we talked about this. He was going to learn on the fly and there's nothing better than like in-game reps. And you know what? He's learning on the fly, and the team's won 13 games. Last thing that the morning show asked AJ Preller was the latest on Nick Pivetta.
Yeah, I think with Nick, again, he's, I think we know his work ethic. We know his determination. I think, he's got a track record of being healthy, which is usually a good sign. And you're also always planning, whether or not, guys are on an IL stint or not. You've got to always be ready for, next man up scenarios and be in a spot where you have depth and guys that can cover in case there are injuries. So that's always a big part of the challenge. But, again, I think for Nick, he knows what's in front of him. He's going to go on the rehab route right now. And, hopefully avoid having to do any kind of surgery and be back and pitch. So I think we're excited to see that. We know he's very in tune with his body. He's a super hard worker, and he's getting the best medical attention and advice. But I think from our standpoint, we'd like to pencil Nick in and see him back here in Petco here at some point in the near term. But you've got to be ready, especially on the pitching front. You've got to be ready for the twists and turns of the season, and we're always trying to look at depth and trying to make sure we have enough to get through the year and more so be successful on the field.
AJ Preller joining the morning show this morning as part of the Manager Reports, brought to you by SDCCU. It's not big bank banking, it's better. We'll see about Nick Pivetta. I mean, if he comes back, that's great. But at this point, elbow stuff is sketch. It's scary. So for holding out hope that he's going to come back, I think is going to be a tough one. And that means that the other guys got to step up. And Matt Waldron tonight's got to step up for this Padres team. I think a lot of people are counting on him to do a lot of great things. And we'll see how he does against the Halos tonight, because the Padres could use it. Now, I think you got to give him a little bit of slack. And obviously with Griffin Canning on the horizon, Matt Waldron has entered himself into this 3-man tryout with him, Walker Buehler, and Amon Marquez. I thought Walker Buehler pitched great last night. Frank and I went to the game. We had the shout out to Jonathan, who won the biggest fan. I got to meet him and some of his family that went to the game last night. I heard Chef Phil hooked him up with a lot of the local eats from Petco Park, which is great to hear. But we got to watch Walker Buehler in person. I thought Walker Buehler did really good last night, Frank. I really did. I thought he pitched well. They probably left him in just one inning too long. He's still building up a stamina, but we haven't mentioned this at all. And we're going to get to Walker Buehler in the next hour. His velo was up. Yeah. His velo was at 96 a couple of times on the four-seam fastball. And he threw a lot of fastballs last night, whether it be cutters, sinkers, or four-seamers. I like the way Nick. You saw some vintage Walker Buehler last night,
and it looked like it could have gotten away from him early. There were a couple of times in that game where it looked like he could have gotten away. I think through his first 10 pitches, he only threw 3 strikes, leadoff walk, got the pickoff after that as well, and then got out of that first inning unscathed. Had a couple more problems. I believe it was in the 3rd inning, trying to get through, but worked his way out of that, and then Craig Stammen let him go out there, try to pitch that 6th inning, hit, run scored. So, I mean, it wasn't the cleanest outing for Walker Buehler, but 5 innings, 5+, 2 runs. It's exactly what you expect out of a number 5 starter. And that's what he gave you.
And you brought him in to be a number 5 starter. It's not his fault that injuries have happened. That doesn't obviously change the expectations. It would be nice for him to step up a little bit more, but I think he's done a really good job so far in a Padres uniform. We're going to talk more about Walker Buehler's outing last night when we come back and talk more about last night's game. Start the final hour of the show. All right, finally get to the game last night. Had a lot to get to today on the Braden Surprenant Show. We are broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. Unable to get to the midday sports standoff today. If you could take me down the rest of this month in sports trivia or trivia in general, we're going to start mixing in some other trivia questions. You'd be qualified for a chance to win this month's grand prize, a pair of field level seats to Padres and Phillies on Memorial Day. We did not do that today. We're going to continue that on Monday, do it again on Monday. So stay tuned for that next Monday. We are broadcasting live for the Bill House Studios. We know how. We've had two great guests today. We have had so many interesting conversations. We have taken this angle a lot of different ways. But we've talked about a potential new owner for the Padres has been picked in Jose Feliciano for $3.9 billion. Sounds like his bid was the winning bid. That is being reported by the Wall Street Journal. We heard from Jared Diamond, who was on with Ben and Woods earlier this morning, who writes for the Wall Street Journal. We had Brit Goli on from The Athletic. I mentioned in my open what I thought about this potential move, or should I say this potential sale to Jose Feliciano. So I have all my thoughts earlier in the show. If you missed any of it, be sure, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our YouTube page. You might be watching on our YouTube page right now. You might be watching on 97 Through the Fans YouTube page. But if you go to youtube.com/@B_SURP, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get more subscribers. Of course, we just got over 1,000. And hey, guess what? 97 Through the Fan just got over 10,000 subscribers. We did it in the same week. It's awesome. But we appreciate all of you guys jumping in, helping us out like that. So again, we really thanks again for jumping in on the subscribers. We got tons of extra content for you on our YouTube page. But we really appreciate it. youtube.com/B_SURP. Hit subscribe, help us out. It does wonders for us. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button. I know it sounds stupid, but if you hit the like button on the bottom of the screen, either on YouTube when you're watching on your desktop or on your phone, it helps push out our video to multiple people that might be missing a lot of our content. So we really appreciate that. If you go ahead and do that, it's great. Thanks again. We're up to 1,021 subscribers now on the Braden Surprenant Show page. Really grateful for everybody that's done that. The more you guys comment on the YouTube and the more you guys like the YouTube videos as we go about, the more YouTube pushes it out to other people that might not even know we exist, that are Padres fans. So try to get our content out there as much as possible. So we really appreciate that. If you could do that for us. If you want to join the show today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We'll get to a couple of phone calls here and then dive into last night's game. Let's get out to Marcus and Menifee. Marcus, what's going on Friday?
Hey, guys. Busy Friday for me. I know I'm a little late to the party with this ownership, but I'm excited for it. But my only concern is what's it going to take for the other 29 owners to vote them in? That's my big
I don't know. I mean, as long as I think from previous ownership groups, I just think it's a lot of like getting to know the other owners, and as long as they aren't going to move a team or tear things down or what have you. Frank, I mean, it seems like a pretty easy process to go through. It's just kind of like they just want to make sure you're not going to ruin that franchise or be a bad rap for Major League Baseball.
What was the first thing you said? Make sure they don't what?
I don't remember.
Move the team?
Yeah, move the team, all that stuff. Well, that's a lot of that stuff that's involved as well. So I don't think they're going to do that. So I think it might be I think it's only a matter of time. And there's a lot of contracts and everything like that. So we'll see what happens. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I wonder what Harold Reynolds is saying today on MLB Network.
Trade the farm, boys.
Do you think they got to do you think they don't have enough money now to pay for Fernando?
Well, no, you just spent all your money buying the team.
Oh, that's right. Now you got to trade everybody. God forbid.
What are you going to do now?
Yeah. You were going to put on MLB Network, weren't you? Then you saw what it was potentially going to be, and you're like, nope, not going to do that.
Well, no, because we already have it on.
I know. No MLB Network because the Mets are getting their Ass kicked.
Meet the mess.
Hey, Shamania's pitching. That's fun.
Yeah. Well, the fact that he's been pitching since the 4th inning isn't great, but hey,
What's the score?
7-3.
In favor of the Cubs?
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough, dude. I'm just looking at the standing. The Padres, second best team in Major League Baseball, second best record in baseball, second best record in the division. I digress on that. I need to point that out. But if you look at league standings in the National League, a loss right now, since the game is earlier, a loss right now would put the Mets at 9 losses in a row. And it would also be they would be worse than the Rockies. They would be the worst team in the National League. Is this rock bottom?
The Mets losing streak may or may not coincide directly with the Padres winning streak, by the way.
I like it. So hopefully the Mets lose then, so the Padres can win today.
Augie, Juan Soto's on the IL.
Does this coincide with
about 2 weeks?
What's their record with not having Juan Soto?
It's probably like 1 and whatever else they've played without him.
How many games they played without him,
Probably around 10.
1 and 11?
Probably. He got hurt the first game he got hurt in they were on the road. I forget where they were.
Play the world's smallest violin for Frank and the Mets.
Yeah, that's what we're
Still
doing.
early, though. Still at 19 games in, man. It's all right. Hey, you know what? Get out of your system now.
Right. You say it's early, but as I said yesterday, it was the second game in San Francisco is when he got hurt.
Second game in San Francisco.
So that was the 2 Fridays ago. So 2 weeks ago.
Since he got hurt, they are
1, 2, 3, 3.
You said second game in San Francisco?
Yeah, 3-8.
They actually won the first 3 games.
Yeah, I know.
After that.
I don't.
Wow.
Yeah. Then they've lost ever since.
Well, you know what? You can't play the Giants every week. So.
But yeah, I think it's since August 28th of last year, the Mets are the second worst team in baseball, only ahead of the Rockies.
They're only better than Dinger.
Who just celebrated a Hatch Day recently.
A Hatch Day, that's right. It was Happy Hatch Day to Dinger. All right, let's talk about positive news for the Padres. I'm sorry, Frank. That's a tough Friday.
As if the Mets losing right now isn't positive news for the Padres, considering their streaks.
They're going the exact opposite direction right now. Let's take a look at Walker Buehler and how he did last night for the Pods. I thought he had a solid, efficient outing last night against the Mariners. And what continues to look like a genuine step forward in 2026. He went 5 innings last night, 2 earned runs, 5 hits, a walk, 7 punch-outs, threw 88 pitches. He was very efficient. 12 whiffs and a 32% on the called strike whiff rate. Strong swing and miss stuff for Walker Buehler last night. And the results on the pitching grades that we evaluate gave him a B. He outpitched his stuff last night. Execution, sequencing, very, very much carried the day. From an eye test, Frank, I thought he looked really good.
Yeah, he did. And we noticed it. You mentioned the higher velocity, but also he was throwing a lot of his harder stuff and less breaking balls earlier in that game as well. He was throwing a lot of four-seam fastballs, which was something that in spring training was getting hit a lot. Same thing in his earlier outings this season. Those four-seamers were getting hit a lot, through the cutter a lot, through the sinker a lot. So a lot of his more on-speed pitches is what he was going for and trying to mix the off-speed stuff in a little bit later to try to get guys out. So he's still clearly working on stuff to try to figure out what kind of pitcher he's going to be in this iteration of Walker Buehler. So a solid night for him all around, and just unfortunate that they left him in for too long.
He threw a lot of cutters last night. I was surprised at how many fastballs he threw last night in terms of four-seam fastballs. As you mentioned, the first inning, he only threw cutters, four-seam fastballs, and sinkers. And then the final pitch he threw in the first inning was that wipeout sweeper to Julio Rodriguez. He got Rodriguez twice via the sweeper. But, he threw the four-seamer 20 times. He threw the cutter 20 times. Against left-handed batters, he threw the four-seam fastball 23% of the time, which is an uptick in the amount of times he has thrown the fastball against left-handers in 64 pitches last night. Threw the cutter a little bit less, threw the curveball 20% of the time to left-handers, and to right-handers, a lot of sweepers. In fact, he barely threw the cutter in the four-seam against right-handers. He mostly saved that for the left-handers and then hit the righties with the sweeper, which means he's leaning into that four-seamer more against left-handers and the sweeper against righties. That's a smart platoon adjustment as he continues. He looks like he's really adjusting his arsenal, inning by inning as he goes through the lineup. And I thought you saw that last night, Frank.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's learning how to pitch in this iteration of Walker Buehler in his career, and he's figuring it out. He is having a little bit of trouble once that second trip through the lineup starts to happen, definitely into the third. But he was able to work out of it. It was the third or fourth inning that he had an issue last night, but again, was able to work out of it, and unfortunately wasn't able to do the same thing in the sixth.
Let's talk about his velocity. I thought that really stood out to me last night was Walker Buehler's velocity. Almost every pitch was up compared to his 2026 season averages. Maybe they cranked up the radar gun. I doubt that's the case, but
he'll be throwing 105 in LA against Ohtani.
Against Ohtani. Yeah, exactly. I made that joke a couple of times last night. Can't wait to see what he can do when Ohtani's pitching alongside him. Mason Miller that night might throw 110.
Yeah.
You never know. Cutter was up.
That was one of the funny comments we both had pretty much at the same time was Adrian Morejon had all 5 of the top pitches, the fastest pitches
of the night.
Walker Buehler comes out. It's like, well, hope he enjoyed that. And immediately just Mason Miller.
Back to Walker Buehler. Every pitch last night was up in terms of velo compared to his 2026 season averages. His cutter was up by an entire mile an hour, 1.4 actually. His four-seamer was up 1.2 on the average. Curveball was up to 77.9. Sinker was up to 94.4. His four-seamer was coming at 94.6, but he touched 96 a couple of times last night, which is encouraging. So arm strength is starting to trend in the right direction for Walker Buehler, and that extra tick makes a whole lot of difference, especially with his arsenal, because now he actually gets some swing and miss and some whiff and some called strike, and his percentage on his called strike whiff percentage goes up on the four-seam fastball, something that was lacking in his first couple of starts. In fact, he was throwing it for strikes, elite strike throwing night with the four-seam fastball. In fact, it was ranked as a, PLV plus 111 on there, which was 11 better than league average. It was good to see his fastball north of 100 on that particular stat category that is put out by the pitcher list people that we use for the graphics. Sweeper, 38% called strike whiff rate. His stuff plus was 127 on his sweeper. His big nasty pitch right now on the season. His sinker was 129 on the stuff plus, which is an insane grade for Walker Buehler's sinker. Even with limited use, it was really effective. His curveball, 31% on the called strike whiff rate. That's a lot of good depth in terms of pitching. Changeup was still the weak link. In fact, a couple of the hits that he gave up in that last inning, in the sixth inning, before he was taken out, was actually on the 89-mile-an-hour changeup. That's kind of the pitch that needs to probably be worked on a little bit more. But this was Buehler last night showing real improvement in 2026. His velo is trending up across the board. He's making in-game adjustments to his pitch usage, more four-seam fastballs against lefties, heavy sweeper against righties. And even though the raw stuff is still graded a C+ on the graphic that we use, he's getting B-level results because of the sequencing of his pitching, the whiff generation that he is creating. 12 and 88 pitches last night. And the efficiency was all part of his arsenal that was clicking, and a big reason why Walker Buehler looked pretty good last night. And it's a big reason why I picked Walker Buehler out of the question yesterday in the roundtable of, out of the three players that are battling for rotation spots long-term on this team for the remainder of the season, Walker Buehler, Amon Marquez, and Matt Waldron, it's a big reason why I picked Walker Buehler on the roundtable yesterday. I like the way he competes. I know everybody saw him throw the glove last night and antics and being a little upset about that. He's got the passion, the fire. He wants to compete. He wants to contribute to this team. It's great to see that a lot of his stuff is starting to improve as well. So great to see Walker Buehler's outing yesterday. It could have been a little bit better if they took him out probably in the fifth. But you know what? Credit Craig Stammen letting this guy go out there and try to get another inning. I mean, I think that's some of the benefits of having a former player be your manager. And he let him try to get out of the situation. The Padres had a good enough lead where the Padres could let Walker Buehler try to get out of his own problems. I didn't mind that last night. He gives up a couple of runs. All right, his overall stat line's not there, but Craig Stammen gave his guy a chance last night.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm sure a lot of these guys on this pitching staff are going to be very, very happy, not just having a former player, but having a former pitcher as their manager, and a recently former pitcher too. For a guy who so desperately wants to go out there and compete and try, and is trying to come back off of injuries and is given this opportunity, that's a situation that Craig Stammen knows. He feels that situation. So he's going to manage with his heart a little bit, probably more than he should, on allowing these guys to get their opportunity and try to make the best of it and get out of these jams, because that's what he would want if he's on the mound. If he came in knowing what this opportunity is, and Stammen needed that extra guy, felt like he could get that extra guy, he would want that. He would fight to get in there to get that extra guy. So he's giving that opportunity to his pitchers now.
Let's get to Ron in La Mesa real quick. Who wants to join the show? Ron, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Oh, wait. I know it's not the same Jose Iglesias, but this could be a real Merry Christmas for the San Diego Padres, guys. I'm almost looking at this as Peter Seidler 2.0. And most of this is because of you Padre fans in the city of San Diego. I think you all should be very proud of it, because if we didn't show up, this wouldn't be happening. So I'm really stoked about this. And Frank, there's a reason the Mets are in Flushing, and you can get my drift there. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you, Ron. Foul on Ron. He means Jose Feliciano.
He draws the foul.
Ron misspoke. He means Jose Feliciano. Did he just call you a toilet? He's called the Mets a toilet?
He draws the foul.
I think he did. Different Derek and La Mesa called in today. When I saw the Derek and La Mesa on the thing, I thought, did the Yankees already play? Did Aaron Judge already hit a home run? Foul for the Feliz Navidad reference.
He draws the foul.
I knew that was coming.
Chat, Ron will have just fouled you guys out just about now.
Just in time. I'm sure Dexter has a little bit of a dad joke of himself that might to add to the fouls for a Foul Out Friday to pick off what Ron had just said. Let's get out to Dexter in Spring Valley. Dexter, what's going on? How's your Friday going?
Hey, fellas. Okay, so with regards to the potential new ownership, I'm guardedly optimistic. I mean, yeah, you could buy all the players you want, but I think what I'm hoping for is that this new ownership is going to be smart enough to retain the people who go out and get these players. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have Preller and the president, Eric. Last name escapes me. Please forgive me. Yeah. If you don't have guys like that running the team, right? We wouldn't have these guys that we have now. We wouldn't have extended, Tatis. We wouldn't have gotten Machado. We wouldn't, have extended Merrill. So if we have the right leadership in upper management, that's going to help. I mean, yeah, having new ownership with big pockets is going to bring in the guys who want to come over and play with our guys, but you know what I mean? If we don't have the leadership, no. And with regards to what you set me up for, yeah, there are a lot of people who like to complain. That's what they live for. And it reminds me of, and hopefully, Braden, you'll remember this, an old TV show from the 90s called Ren and Stimpy. And they have, Stimpy was the cat who was a few fries short of a Happy Meal. But Ren was constantly angry. And if you go onto YouTube and you type in Ren and Stimpy, happy, happy, joy, joy, that's the famous song that they're known for. At the end of that video, Ren is like completely gone mental, super angry and all that. And then all of a sudden he stops and he goes, I love being angry. And that's what it boils down to. These people just enjoy being negative. They enjoy being like Ren. That's just how they're wired. Instead of being Stimpy looking for the positive things in life, they're Ren, and they're looking for the negative things in life. That's what brings them joy in a really bizarre and twisted way. So there you go, boys. Have a good weekend. And Frank, you are not negative. You're not, like bad luck. You're just Eeyore. You're just a little bit depressed about your Mets.
He draws the foul.
Speaking of, it's about to get worse in Chicago. Dexter, appreciate the phone call. We'll keep you updated on that in just a little bit. When we come back, Kristen Scripps Ranch was right. We'll talk about it. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Summer Sports Station 97 through the Fan. San Diego High School Sports has a team you need to start paying attention to right now, and it's Helix Softball. They're 13-1, just pulled off an 8-6 comeback win. And here's the crazy part. They scored 7 runs with 2 outs. That's not luck. That's kind of an offensive mindset, and yet they're not even ranked in the top 10 locally. This is a team with multiple hitters hitting over 400, a freshman hitting nearly 600, and a pitcher who hasn't allowed an earned run in over 37 innings. Oh, and they're stuck in Division III, which is clearly, which they clearly don't agree with. So now that you've got a loaded team with something to prove, and in high school sports, that's a dangerous combination. Don't be surprised if Helix doesn't just win a championship, but makes a statement doing it. San Diego High School Sports is heating up, and this week it starts in La Mesa with a team that's tired of being overlooked. At Helix High School, the softball team is putting together one of the most compelling seasons in the section. The Highlanders improved to 13-1 after an 8-6 comeback win over Steele Canyon. And this wasn't just any comeback. They scored 7 runs with 2 outs. That tells you everything about this team's identity, resilience, belief, and a lineup that just doesn't quit.
No, and junior catcher Nikayla Domingo led the charge, going 3 for 4 with a 2-run homer and 3 RBIs. And when you look back at the numbers across the board, this offense is dangerous. Multiple hitters batting over 400, including a freshman hitting nearly 600. That is insane. But here's where the story gets interesting, if it wasn't already. Despite the record and production, Helix is still fighting for respect. They've been dropped out of local top 10 rankings, largely due to strength of schedule and being placed in Division III. And internally, they're not happy about it, nor should they be. This team believes that they shouldn't be in Division III, and they're playing with a chip on their shoulder every single game. And honestly, it might be the most dangerous thing about this team.
Yeah, they're going to do some damage probably in Division III. I mean, strength of schedule is a huge part. I mean, you got to be able to play better teams, especially in high school. And I know the old cliche of, you can only play who's on your schedule. Well, most of these high schools make their own schedule. So at some point in time, and it's not like college football where they make the schedule 8 years out in advance.
Yeah, it's high school.
You got to be able to put together a better schedule, in my opinion. I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment further. But usually in high school sports, when teams are feeling disrespected, they haven't played anybody to warrant the respect yet. But they're playing at a high level. That's all they could do. The girls can only play the best softball that they possibly can, and they might be able to win a D3 championship for it. So good on them for continuing to play hard despite maybe some things not going their way that they can't control. Elsewhere, big-time events are on the horizon. The John Baumgarten Classic is coming to Petco Park later this month, giving local high school players a chance to compete on a major league field. Matchups include Helix and El Cap, and multiple showcase games across April 24th to 25th. It's one of the best traditions in San Diego high school sports, and a stage where stars are made. I was able to play at Qualcomm Stadium in high school. Football is always a great time. I know a lot of kids love their experience playing at Petco Park when they have an opportunity. Love when the Padres do this. Love when the high school kids are allowed to play at the big league fields.
Yeah, it was great too. I remember last year after a Sunday game, they had a basically the high school home run derby.
And they had the All-Star
Yeah,
game. And everything.
after the Padre game, and that was really, really cool to see those kids getting so amped up, not just to get to play in an All-Star game against the best teams and against the best players in San Diego, but also to get that opportunity to play on a big league field, because you never know, it might be the first time they get to do it out of many, or it could be the first and only time they get to do it.
On the field, La Costa Canyon High School girls lacrosse is showing what depth really looks like in a dominant win over Marin Catholic. 10 different players scored goals, a rare feat at any level. Adding goalkeeper Cambria Williams, 13 saves. And this is a team that's not just talented, but it is complete. On the track, history was made, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. At the Arcadia Invitational, Josiah Brown from Sage Creek.
Bowman,
sorry. From Sage Creek, broke the San Diego section record in the 800 meter, running a blazing 1 minute 49.54 seconds. It's a barrier athletes chase for years, and he didn't just break it. He owned the moment. So congratulations to Josiah Bowman out at Sage Creek High School.
Getting closer to playoff time for a lot of sports. Some teams are right there, I think, almost in the playoffs at this point in time. So what's the big takeaway this week? San Diego High School sports isn't just about winning. It's about programs trying to prove something. Helix softball wants the respect. LCC lacrosse is showing dominance through depth, and athletes like Bowman are rewriting history. This is the time of year where narratives start to form, and right now, some teams are making it very clear they're not waiting their turn anymore. Helix softball being overlooked, and that could actually help them win a championship. Helix not being ranked, being placed Division III, and questioning their schedule, it's all adding fuel for them. And sometimes the most dangerous teams aren't the ones at the top. Want to pay for?
Lads, we're getting it. We're getting the Eric Hosmer cameo.
We'll see how that goes.
Listen to this. Out of Juan in the chat, Frank Marchese, what do you say? Mets are going to lose today. Guess what, buddy?
He draws the foul.
That's amazing.
Eric Hosmer cameo inbound.
That's the 5th foul.
Yeah.
Fouls against collars don't count towards the chat.
Stop it.
They don't. They count towards the collars. There's collars fouls and there's team fouls of the chat. There's also like you and me fouls. I mean, there's different types of team fouls here. Collars have 2 fouls.
No, callers have like 4.
All right. Well, then another caller would have to get the 5th. The chat's got a couple, but not together. Just saying. 833-288-973. 833-288-973. Just saying. So you're close. Close. Thank you. Let's get out to Mark in Bankers Hill. Mark, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
I got a question asking the Braden. On the sale of the Padres?
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, what would it be if the city, if he offered to buy the ballpark from the city, and the city doesn't have to maintain it and owns a whole 9 yards? I don't know. I think that's a possibility. The city would sell it to him.
I'm not sure, Mark. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's probably a better question for maybe the city of San Diego. I know there's like, they have the partnership of different things where there's something to do with like if the Padres put money into the stadium, they get this and that. They have a deal in place already. I don't know if the city would be willing to do that. I don't know why they would want to do that. Who knows? I'm sure. I guess it's a possibility. I really don't have any extra information on that. But it's an interesting question. We appreciate the phone call, Mark. 833-288-973. 833-288-973. Hey, Marchese, what do you say? The Mets are gonna lose today.
Yeah.
That is so funny. Now you got to like put it in like a little bit of a jingle. Because isn't that their whole thing? Like, hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are going to win today. They didn't really play a lot of that for a long time, did they? Lovable losers, as they say. 833-288-973. 833-288-973. As I mentioned, yeah, Gonzo's right. Callers are their own team. Team foul. Callers get team fouls. Chat is it's a different team foul. I don't know why you're still putting yourself through this misery in April.
Because I'm a fan, dude.
I know.
That's why. Because I hate myself.
At what point during your drive up to Anaheim today are you going to be like, you know what, we'll get him tomorrow? I'm excited for Mets baseball tomorrow.
Oh, the second this game ends.
Okay. You'll come through with kind of a fluke of a game. It's a day game in Chicago. It's at Wrigley Field, whatever. We still don't have Juan Soto back.
It'll be the meme. It'll be bleep you. I'll see you tomorrow.
That's right. Curb your enthusiasm. There's going to be a big contingent of Padres fans up there. Are you going to go say hi to Rod today? Rod just got to Disneyland, dude.
Well, there you go. Why?
Might as well make a good weekend out of it.
Exactly right.
I'll be at USD all weekend for USD baseball. They're doing a great thing tonight that I'm gonna MC. We're gonna make sure we do this right. But they're excited to have everybody at Fowler Park tonight for a special event. They're going to retire the number of Brian Mattis. Brian was the 2008 National Pitcher of the Year, NCAA strikeout leader. He was a top 5 MLB draft pick nearly 2 decades after throwing his last pitch on campus, and he still holds the all-time program record for career strikeouts. He went on to an 8-year Major League career, helped Baltimore reach the postseason 3 times, all of this among countless accolades at USD and beyond. And even though Brian is no longer with us, his legacy continues to live on, and tonight the legacy will grow even further as they retire Brian Mattis' jersey tonight at Fowler Park. So a pretty cool thing that I get to be a part of with them tonight. So if you're a USD baseball fan and want to go out there, they'll be retiring Brian Mattis' number 17 jersey tonight on the wall at Fowler Park. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Mitch in Claremont, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Mitch?
Yo, what's up, dude? How's it going?
We're doing well.
Awesome. Padres game was ecstatic last night. I'm bummed I didn't go for the closeout or the Jackson Merrill hit, but last night was awesome. Hey, real quick, did you ever go to Easy Takeout Burger up in Claremont? Do you remember that?
No.
Off Genesee, next to the Target. It was like kind of a ripoff of. It was a ripoff of In-N-Out. It was like a mom and pop one-off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was super good. And then, secondly, I don't think anybody's talked about it, but it is WrestleMania weekend.
It is. Frank, do you want to give us the update on WrestleMania weekend?
For those of you who want
where is WrestleMania this year?
It is in Vegas.
Vegas.
And now after COVID, it's been a 2-night event ever since. So night 1 will be tomorrow night, I believe at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern, I believe. And then night 2 will be on Sunday at the same time. You can watch that on ESPN Plus, but only if you have that ESPN Plus unlimited package, whatever
that deal is.
Yeah.
What's the big headliner for WrestleMania?
Roman Reigns versus CM Punk.
Wow, CM Punk's still out there?
Yes.
He gave up on his UFC career.
Yeah, no, he came back. He came back like 4 years ago, went to AEW and has been back with WWE for the last couple of years.
Wow, who's the face now and who's the heel?
Punk's the face, Roman's the heel.
Okay.
And then for night, I'm not sure which one is main eventing which night, but I believe it's also, I think it's Cody Rhodes and who the heck does he have with him? Oh, I think it's Cody Rhodes and Jelly Roll, I think.
Wow, Jelly Roll.
Versus Randy Orton and Kai Cenat, I believe.
Okay.
He is a Twitch streamer, so I believe that's...
Any other hinted celebrity appearances? Go Aztecs on the Twitch chat has said.
Hold on, I'll get you the... Oh, wait, no, not that one.
Whoa,
get you the whole
WrestleMania.
Yeah, let me get you the whole match card here.
No,
it's not.
They usually make they usually do what's it called? They break like every attendance record for stadiums.
God, yeah. Well, it's also iffy as to whether or not they're legitimate or not. But
how many fouls does the chat have?
I've got enough, I'm sure. So just not in any particular order. It's Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. Randy Orton's got Pat McAfee with him.
Wow.
Yeah. Stephanie Vacour versus Liv Morgan for the women's championship. Another women's championship match will be AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch.
Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre. Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and ISHO Speed versus the Usos and LA Knight. There's your more or less your celebrity match. Seth Rollins versus Gunther. CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley. Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar. Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams. Penta versus Javon Evans versus Dragon Lee versus JD McDonough versus Rusev versus Rey Mysterio in the ladder match.
Wow, Rey Mysterio.
Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio. And that's more or less. Now you're not going to see all of those on one night. It's going to be split between
absolutely.
2 nights. So
did you see what Juan
starting tomorrow?
Did you see what Juan said in the chat?
No.
Jelly Roll, aka Stephen Woods, on the weekends. Oh man.
He draws the foul.
It's not funny. It's very funny.
That's funny.
Not funny. That was a good one. It's not funny. Do not make fun of our morning host.
We got to text
that was
to Woods.
hilarious.
We got to send it to Woods. That's so funny. Kristen Scripps Ranch was right. We'll explain when we come back to finish up the show. Braden Surprenant Show, Settings Urban Sports Station 97 through the Fan.
Ben and Woods.
The NBA playoffs are here, and this year it's wide open. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the favorites, but that also means it's championship or bust. In the East, the Detroit Pistons are the number 1 seed, but all eyes are on Cade Cunningham's health. If he's not 100%, they could be out early. The Celtics look dangerous. The Knicks are under pressure, and the Hawks might be the sleeper team nobody wants to face. Out west, well, it's chaos. Lakers are dealing with major injuries to Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, so now it's all on LeBron. Spurs are rising fast behind Victor Wembanyama, and the Nuggets still have Nikola Jokic, who can take over any series. And don't forget the play-in: Warriors, Clippers, Heat fighting just to survive. So here's the question: is this the Thunder's league now? Or is the NBA more unpredictable than ever? The NBA postseason is officially here, and this year it feels wide open. We've got 20 teams still alive in the play-in tipping off this week, and a finals race that might come down to health, depth, and who gets hot at the right team. Let's start in the East, Frank.
Yeah, the surprise of the season, the Detroit Pistons, number 1 overall seed with 60 wins out of 82 opportunities. This team is built on defense and toughness, led by Cade Cunningham, who's finally playing like a franchise superstar. But here's the catch. He's coming off a serious injury. And in the playoffs, if your best player isn't right, nothing else really matters. Right behind them, the Boston Celtics look like the most complete team in the East. Jason Tatum is back. Jaylen Brown is playing at an elite level, but their front court depth is a real question. Then there's pressure, real pressure on the Knicks, not by the Knicks, on the Knicks. They didn't build a roster to, quote unquote, compete. They built it to win. If Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns do not deliver, there could be major changes. And keep an eye on the Atlanta Hawks, who the Knicks are going to have to face in the first round. One of the hottest teams in basketball. They flipped their entire identity midseason, and now they're a legitimate upset threat.
Now into the Western Conference, and this is where things get real. The defending champion, the Oklahoma City Thunder, are the clear favorites. Best net rating in the league, best defense, and led by MVP level Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And for them, it's simple: championship or bust. Right behind them, the San Antonio Spurs, powered by Victor Wembanyama. When they've been dominant, and they have been dominant, but this is their real first playoff test. Can their fast-paced style survive when the game slows down? And then there's chaos in the middle. The Los Angeles Lakers are in serious trouble. Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves are hurt, which means everything falls on LeBron. And that's not necessarily a recipe for success in 2026. At this stage in his career, asking LeBron to carry a team through a playoff series, that's kind of a massive gamble for the Lake Show. Meanwhile, the Houston Rockets, led by Kevin Durant, are dangerous, but closing games has been a real issue. And don't overlook the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic, best offensive team in basketball, but with serious defensive concerns. And then there's the play-in games that start Tuesday, arguably the most unpredictable part of the entire postseason. Teams like the Golden State Warriors, LA Clippers, and Miami Heat out east are fighting just to get in. one game, one shot, win or go home. It's going to be interesting to see who ends up winning in the play-in games to really solidify this NBA playoff bracket.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And it's been a lot of fun to watch this season. I believe we mentioned it on a couple of updates ago that this isn't really it's going to be Golden State and Miami. It's going to be Golden State versus LeBron. It's not like that anymore. This is a real legitimate competitive league now you're really tossed on who can win. And that's always great when you can have every single team in the playoff, when you can give them a legitimate way that they can win. It makes your product a lot more entertaining, a lot more watchable. And of course, as we've known now for the last couple of years, this is the time when the NBA players actually really try to win these games.
Yeah.
So it's going to make it even more crazy and unpredictable.
Yeah, the level of play shoots through the roof. I mean, this is the time where I start tuning into NBA games on a daily basis. But here's the big conversation for a lot of the casual fans, right? It's, people like dynasties. General public likes dynasties. They like to see dynasties play. They like to see teams maybe win a couple of championships, and then they like to see the destruction of dynasties. So are the Oklahoma City Thunder actually a dynasty in the making, or is the West too loaded for them to dominate? Because on paper, they are the best team, but the playoffs aren't about paper. And you've got experience in Denver. You got some star power in LA. You got the rising stars in San Antonio. I still think OKC is the best team, but I don't think they're they're not unbeatable. And in today's NBA, that's all it takes. One bad series, one injury, one hot opponent, everything changes. I think this might be, and we've talked about this on the last couple of NBA updates, this has to be one of the most wide open fields you'll see in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Oklahoma City, I think it would need to be, if they don't win the NBA Finals this year, I think you need to at least lose in at least game 6 and then come out like a wrecking ball next year in order to be considered a dynasty, or at least the makings of a dynasty. Of course, that's cemented if they win, that this really is the next dynasty that's going to rule the NBA.
Are you going to be late for this today? You going to try to time up the traffic so you miss their intro video?
No, if I have to sit through it tonight, y'all are sitting with it. I'm not going down alone on this ship here.
It's pretty cool. I mean, if I had every night is kind of ridiculous, but the first, if you go up there as a road team and you see it the one time, this is kind of cool. Like the Angels' history, it's the entire song.
It's the entire song. And especially they're going to be, so like I said, we've heard of, new dad power, right?
Seems like dad strength. Yes.
Dad strength. Yeah. New dad power. So for those of you who don't know, it's the totally real baseless thing that, when a guy comes back off the parental list, got a little extra pop, usually hits a home run or usually has a big night after that. So we have new ownership power tonight going up against loss of a team Hall of Famer power tonight. So I wonder if it washes itself out or if one's going to take over.
I don't know.
Garrett Anderson passed away. Angels Hall of Famer, is with the organization forever. Passing away, or I believe it was late last night or early today.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, not great. So definitely wish the best to him and his family.
Well, yeah, was the Angels organization and all the Angels fans, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of, memory for him today. I mean, I could see them doing the whole Angels intro of just him.
I can see that as well, and that would be a very, very nice touch.
So we'll see. And you're going to be up there today?
Yes, I will.
Let us know what's going on.
Will do.
Angels and Padres tonight. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. What time are they starting? 6:38?
6:38.
6:38. 6:38. What's with these
the official time?
What is with these
start
times? What's worse, that or the 07 starts that the Blue Jays have?
What's going to be even worse than that is the 07 start you're going to get on Sunday.
It's an 07 start on Sunday?
6:38 tomorrow.
Okay.
Tonight and tomorrow. And then on Sunday afternoon is a 107.
They didn't want to do 137? 127? 117?
I think the bigger problem there is that they didn't want to do 110, Like that's...
They do the 38s already. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You said Sunday's at 107?
Yes, Sunday is at 107, 4:07 Eastern.
Can't even blame the Ducks for that. They're not playing on Sunday. Let me go find it again. 107.
Yeah, Matt Waldron versus Jose Soriano tonight. Soriano's off to a really good start to the year, 4-0 with an 0.33 ERA. Herman Marquez versus Yusei Kikuchi on Saturday, and then Michael King versus Reed Detmers on Sunday.
For the 107 start.
Yeah, for the 107.
It's like that's the Blue Jay start times you're going to see. You're going to see the 407 times when they go to... Oh, they're not going to Toronto this year. They went to Toronto last year. The other one are the 20 ones. Like the Braves do like 420 Pacific time. Now they got they're going at night.
Cubs usually do the 20 starts also.
Were they doing they were doing the 11.
today.
Yeah, they're like the 11:20 times for us on the West Coast. Some of these times are ridiculous. 6:38 start. That means the Equator SoCal Padres pregame show is at 5:38. I haven't seen a lineup yet today. We'll talk. If it comes out in the next couple of minutes, we'll get it to you. But I don't think it's going to be the case.
The big and expected roster move has already been made, so this might just be normal timing today.
Yeah, Padres are going against Soriano, who's 4-0 with a 0.33 ERA, 31 strikeouts. Guy's been electric for the Angels so far earlier today, earlier this year. The Padres have had a couple of guys get some at-bats against them. Ty France is the most at-bats. He has 8 at-bats. He's 4 for 8 with 5 RBIs and a 1333 OPS against Soriano. Castellanos got 3 at-bats. Cronenworth's got 6 at-bats. Andujar's got 4. Jackson Merrill's got 5 at-bats. Tatis has got 5 at-bats also against Soriano. A lot of the numbers, relatively small sample size. Some of the Padres hitters have done very well against Soriano. But let's go back to Jake Cronenworth for a second. And to kind of finish up the show, we'll probably dive a little bit more into this next week. But we were talking yesterday about how he's gotten a little unlucky. But at the same time, an interesting thing that was brought up by Chris in Scripps Ranch, who said that Jake Cronenworth's swing too much of an uppercut. Jake Cronenworth's swing issues in 2026, early in the season, boiled down to a clear mismatch between what his swing is trying to do and what it is actually doing, and what actually works against non-fastballs, because his swing against non-fastballs is pretty crazy. His bat speed is up to 71.8 miles an hour overall, which is a career highish mark, which is a positive. But everything else in the swing path and timing has gone off the rails on breaking balls and off-speed pitches, which is killing his quality of contact and overall production. If you go on Baseball Savant and you look at his swing metrics, you will see exactly what Chris and Scripps Ranch called in and told us on the show yesterday. And there's data to back it up. And the data-backed breakdown using the charts from Baseball Savant on his swing metrics. You take a look at some of his numbers and what you've seen so far this year. But what the charts show that is wrong with his swing, the attack angle, you could look at attack angle, you could talk about swing length, timing, all that stuff. Chris and Scripps Ranch said he swings too much of an uppercut. So we looked at his attack angle, and his attack angle has become way too steep on secondary pitches, which would be breaking balls and off speed. 21-degree average in 2026. Guy's swinging up on every one of those. The ideal range for a swing, according to in Major League Baseball, is approximately 5 degrees to 20 degrees. He's now averaging 21 degrees on both breaking balls and off-speed pitches on his swing. The ideal attack angle percentage has collapsed for Jake Cronenworth. Off speed's down to 27% from 47% in 2025, breaking to 40%. And the result is, even though the bat is coming up steeply, because again, he said he wanted to get back to his fly balls that he hit and the deep fly balls and the power numbers that he was swinging early on in his career. Even though his bat's coming up steeply, he's producing a 7.8 degree launch angle and tons of topped weak contact, which is exactly what Chris and Scripps Ranch said yesterday that he is just physically saw. He's swinging underneath the ball in pitches that break down instead of meeting them on the plane. Swing length has been exploded on fastballs, off-speed pitches, 8.3 feet, longest of any track season. Breaking balls, 7.9 feet. Longer swing equals more time to the ball, which equals harder to adjust the velocity and shape changes. And this directly feeds the next issue, which is his timing. It's late on breaking and off-speed pitches, extreme opposite field contact, which we've seen out of Jake. His attack direction, as we mentioned before, with some of these conversations, with these metrics that you see on Baseball Savant, negative 17 degrees on both breaking and off-speed pitches. Career average is mildly pull-sided overall. This is the clearest sign of him being late. The bat is coming around behind the ball. Intercept point shifted dramatically outward. His breaking and off-speed pitches are now approximately 42.5 versus the 34 to 36 earlier in the season. Fastball stayed at approximately 25.5. Mechanically, contact is happening much further to the outfield or lateral side of his body on secondary pitches, which is breaking balls and off-speed, and hands are not getting inside the ball. He's reaching or pulling off. The bat speed is actually better, so it's not like he's lost pop. All the pitch types are, fastball, 71 miles an hour on the swing, breaking ball, 73.5 miles an hour on the swing, off speed, 72.5. The power is there for Jake Cronenworth in raw terms, but it's not translating because the path of the bat and the timing is off. That is something that Chris literally said yesterday when he called into the show. And if you look at the reports on Baseball Savant, it tells the exact same picture. It tells the exact same story, that Chris talked about when he called into the show yesterday. In season for Jake Cronenworth, it's a small sample size, but right now, again, it's been attack too high on the attack swing and being late. And that's been the biggest problem for Jake Cronenworth. And that kind of it makes sense, Frank, as we kind of end the show today with this. And let's see if there's something to look for this weekend for Jake Cronenworth. You look at the way he swings and the results he's getting and the conversations he had in spring about how he wanted to kind of go back to what the player he was in the first couple of years of his career when he was hitting gap to gap. He thought he got to get a little bit of launch angle. A lot of the stuff that we looked at last night really coincides with what Chris and Scripps Ranch said, and also what we're seeing with our eyes and what Jake's sought out to do before the year started.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you get. We mentioned that he's a former major leaguer last night. So it makes sense that a guy who used to play the game at a high level would see stuff like that we might be missing. And he nailed it. Bang on.
We're going to break down what Jake did over the weekend to see if there's some adjustments there. Something to watch for in this weekend series against the Angels. We'll talk more about that on Monday. We'll recap the Angels game on Monday as well, or their Angels series. For Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. Gwen and Chris coming up next. Santa Cruz Urban Sports Station, 97 through the Fan.